Chapter 1430. What are you talking about? Pei Yuqing walked out of the study. Lin Yan shrugged. We're talking about our son. Pei Yuqing raised his eyebrows and shot her a suspicious look. Lin Yan grinned. Third young master said that Pei Qian looks like me and Pei Li looks like you. Hence, he suspects that one of them is your illegitimate son and the other is mine. Pei Yuqing was speechless. Mr. Pei said that we might have given birth to him. Haha. Lin Yan chuckled. If we really gave birth to him, I would be so happy that I would spread the news all over the world. Why would we hide it? Pei Yuqing's eyes darted to Lin Yan. Pei Qian and Pei Li pricked up their ears when they heard him. Their eyes sparkled with anticipation. What did Mom say? If they were her and Pei Yuqing's son, they would be so happy that they would spread the news all over the world. That way the whole world would know that they were Mom's children. Suddenly she realized that Pei Yuqing seemed more pleasing to the eye. It was an illusion. It had to be an illusion. Sister-in-law, the first level of the international competition will start in a few days. I want to watch your competition. Do you have tickets? I didn't manage to get one even though I activated the accelerator. Pei Yutong pressed on excitedly. Lin Yan replied readily, I have some tickets. Since you're a shareholder, I'll give them to you later. Pei Nanshu asked curiously, can I go? Mr. Pei, do you want to go too? Are you free that day? Lin Yan sounded excited. Pei Nanshu replied, Sister-in-law, just call me Nanshu. You don't have to be so formal. Lin Yan coughed. Nanshu. She wasn't used to being called sister-in-law by her idol. It was an indescribable feeling as though she had a higher seniority. Don't worry. I can clear my schedule for that day, replied Pei Nanshu. Lin Yan replied happily, sure, I'll reserve one for you too. Just as he finished speaking, a small hand carefully tugged at the corner of his clothes. Pei Li asked tentatively, Big sister, can I go? Pei Qian, who hadn't expected that he would be interrupted, widened his eyes in anger. Mommy, I want to go too. Lin Yan scratched her head awkwardly. You guys want to go too? I can, but there will probably be a lot of people that day. It's all right. I'll take them there. Pei Yuqing volunteered to take care of the kids. Are you coming too? Lin Yan knew that he didn't like racing, so she rarely mentioned it to him, let alone invited him to watch a race. Pei Yuqing replied, there's no need to prepare tickets for us. I've already asked Cheng Mo to book 3. Lin Yan was speechless. He had actually booked the tickets in advance. He had even booked tickets for Pei Qian and Pei Li. Pei Qian and Pei Li watched Pei Yuqing's reaction with conflicted expressions. They knew how much Pei Yuqing had objected to his mother's participation in the competition. But now this man seemed to be a completely different person. No wonder Mom was tricked by him, Pei Yutong replied excitedly, ha, that's great. Sister-in-law, let's go and cheer for you. Lin Yan was startled by his words, but her eyes were filled with warmth. Thank you. In the past, when she competed abroad, she had always been alone. He didn't want his family to worry, so he didn't dare to tell them. This was the first time her family had gone to watch her race and cheer for her. End of this chapter. Chapter 1431. Racing had always been one of the most popular competitions in the world. It was the same in the country. However, the poor results of racers from other countries had made the fans in the country more and more discouraged. It was rare for this year's international competition to be held in China. In addition, the Chinese racers had performed well this time. A total of 10 racers had entered the first level of the international competition, which ignited the enthusiasm of the Chinese fans. Every race was sold out, and tickets for the first level of the international competition were hard to come by. Racer fans from all over the country gathered together. The spectator area was divided into several areas, including the main grandstand, the auxiliary grandstand, and the grassy area. Different areas had different views of the competition. There were 6 large screens above the spectator area, so one could watch the entire competition. The best viewing area was the platinum area, which was located at the top of the grandstand. From this height, one could overlook the entire competition venue. It faced the starting grid, the first turn, the maintenance area, and the award ceremony stage. One could also watch the racers from a close distance. Lin Yan asked Mo Shuyun to arrange for Pei Yutong and the others to sit together. The 3 Pei brothers had already arrived at the spectator area with the 2 kids. Pei Qian and Pei Li sat between Pei Nanshu and Pei Yuqing, while Pei Yutong sat beside Pei Yuqing. Many celebrities would be there to watch such a large-scale competition, so Pei Nanshu didn't try to hide it. Everyone was a fan and everyone's attention was on the racers. Pei Yutong picked up a pair of binoculars excitedly. Ha. This is the first time I'm sitting in such a good seat. I can even see the expressions of the racers. Pei Qian and Pei Li each held a pair of binoculars as they searched for their mother. The main grandstand was divided into the silver, gold, and platinum areas. Most of the seats in the platinum area were occupied by famous people from all walks of life. Other than that, there were internal staff and the family members of the racers. Pei Nanshu had only been sitting for a short while when many fans and people from the industry came over to greet him. "Ah, Mr. Pei. Is it really Mr. Pei?" Two girls exclaimed excitedly, "Sorry to disturb you. Could you please give us an autograph?" Of course. Pei Nanshu satisfied the two girls' requests. The two girls were very polite. They knew that Pei Nanshu was there to watch the competition, so they didn't disturb him. However, they kept sneaking glances at Pei Yuqing. The man was dressed in casual clothes and wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He held a child's backpack in one hand and a child's water bottle in the other. From time to time, he would reach out to stop the little boy beside him from slipping and falling. He looked like an ordinary father taking his child out for an outing, but his dazzling appearance and noble and aloof temperament made people unable to look away. The gentleness he showed when he was taking care of the child made people's hearts race. They wanted nothing more than to give the child to him. "Ah, Mr. Pei is sitting right in front of me, but I can't help but look at another man in front of him." One of the girls clutched her chest. "Are you talking about the one with the glasses?" "Me too. Me too. I only took a look. I've already decided on the names of our twins." "Who is that man? Which superstar? Why haven't I seen it before? Hang on. Why does he look so familiar?" The girl seemed to recall something. *CK. I remember now. Isn't he Mr. Pei's brother? The president of JM Corporation, Pei Yuqing? He's the richest person on the list. My hubby, Chapter 1432. Boss. President Pei. It's really you? I thought I was hallucinating. The boss of a local car company stared at Pei Yuqing in shock. He hadn't expected Pei Yuqing to come to such an event. If he hadn't seen Pei Yuqing sitting next to him, he would have thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Pei Yuqing nodded slightly. "Boss Liu. President Pei, I didn't expect you to come to watch the competition. I would have arranged a seat for you. Are you here to watch the competition or to inspect?" Boss Liu probed. He felt that Pei Yuqing didn't seem like someone who liked racing. Had he invested in a team? Was that why he was here? Pei Yuqing glanced at Boss Liu and replied unhurriedly, "Family member?" Boss Liu was taken aback. Family member? He had no idea which racer Pei Yuqing was related to. Boss Liu was Lane Racing's biggest investor and one of the sponsors of the international competition. Thus, he knew a lot about the racing industry. However, he had never heard of this. That was why he was shocked. Could it be a cousin or cousin of some sort? This was a private matter after all. Pei Yuqing had no intention of talking about it, so he didn't probe further. He merely smiled and made small talk. Oh, I see. I didn't expect President Pei to have such an impressive relative. He entered the first level of the international competition. Impressive. Boss Liu immediately sent a message to Lane Racing's manager to ask about the situation. He wanted to know which racer was related to the Pei family. Soon Lane Racing replied. None of the three racers had the surname Pei, and none of them were related to the Pei family. The other racers hadn't heard of such a relationship either. Could they be from the Lightspeed team? If he had known this would happen, he would have invested in the Lightspeed team. He would have been able to use this connection to get closer to Pei Yuqing. Pei Yutong burst into laughter as he whispered in Pei Yuqing's ear, "Brother, you're too sarcastic. Boss Liu must be trying to find out which racer is your relative. He would never guess that she is your girlfriend." Suddenly, someone exclaimed in surprise, "Pei Nanshu?" Pei Nanshu raised his head and glanced at Wei Shufeng, who was wearing sunglasses. Pei Yutong turned to look at the newcomer. Wei Shufeng? Isn't he one of big sister-in-law's rumored boyfriends? Wei Shufeng removed his sunglasses and looked at Pei Nanshu in surprise. "Pei Nanshu, why are you here?" Pei Nanshu greeted him. "Long time no see. I'm here to watch the competition." Wei Shufeng frowned and muttered, "You? Watch the competition? I've never heard that you like racing." Wei Shufeng was an avid racing fan, and he never missed a single race. However, Pei Nanshu's character had nothing to do with racing, so he was surprised to see Pei Nanshu. "I came with my family," replied Pei Nanshu. Wei Shufeng, who recognized Pei Yutong and Pei Yuqing, didn't think much of it when he saw them sitting together. He merely stole a few more glances at the two kids sitting between Pei Nanshu and Pei Yuqing. Why did he bring 2 kids to watch a car race? Make way. Make way. Hurry up and go to your seats. Why are you blocking the way? Qi Xiaoyuan urged them. Wei Shufeng and Qi Xiaoyuan were seated in front of Pei Nanshu. Qi Xiaoyuan's sharp eyes caught sight of Pei Yuqing. Isn't that boss's boyfriend? End of this chapter. Chapter 1433. Qi Xiaoyuan had first learned that boss had a boyfriend when he had met the fake Yeva at the press conference. In order to expose the fake Yeva, he had purposely asked her to call Sun Xuan over. Later on, Lin Yan had accidentally revealed that she had a boyfriend. As a loyal fan, how could he not pay attention to such an important matter? However, boss had kept a low profile, so he hadn't been able to discover any traces of this mysterious boyfriend. Until the end of the 2nd level of the international competition. Coincidentally, he had been nearby when boss had competed that day. Qi Xiaoyuan had successfully attracted Pei Yuqing's attention. As Lin Yan's fanatical fan, Qi Xiaoyuan had printed a huge Aurora logo and Lin Yan's name on his shirt. He had also painted Lin Yan's name on his face. He had even prepared a huge banner and a small flag. Qi Xiaoyuan noticed that Pei Yuqing was staring at him, so he panicked. Hello, can I have some extra? Pei Yuqing asked in a gentlemanly manner. Qi Xiaoyuan, who was overwhelmed by the favor, hurriedly passed the remaining stickers and flags to him. Of course. Of course. Take as much as you want, but I don't have much left. You can have them all. Thank you. Pei Yuqing took the items from Qi Xiaoyuan. Pei Qian and Pei Li had been staring at him with sparkling eyes. Pei Yuqing glanced at his sons. Do you want them? Both of them nodded in unison without hesitation. Pei Yuqing picked up 2 red stickers and stuck them on the faces of the 2 little fellows. Pei Yuqing stuck a Lin character on Pei Li's face and a Yen character on Pei Qian's face. Qi Xiaoyuan had wanted to remind them that they shouldn't stick the stickers like that. They should stick the Lin character on the left cheek and the Yen character on the right. However, when he saw that both of them seemed to be in harmony, he didn't stop them. He had seen one of them that night, but why was there another one? Pei Yuqing gave 1 flag to Pei Qian and Pei Li and kept 1 for himself. He then gave the rest to Pei Nanshu and Pei Yutong. Pei Yutong waved the flags in his hands, looking indescribable. Tsk. This was a man in love. He was willing to do anything for his wife. Pei Yutong glanced at Qi Xiaoyuan. The more he looked at him, the more familiar he felt. He exclaimed in surprise, "Ah Lai, it's you." They had met at a meet-and-greet event organized by the fake Yeva. Qi Xiaoyuan had even helped to expose the fake Yeva's true identity. Pei Yutong replied, "Aren't you Yeva's diehard fan?" "Oh, I'm a loyal fan of boss and goddess Lin Yan. There's no conflict," Qi Xiaoyuan said matter-of-factly. Pei Yutong grabbed Qi Xiaoyuan's hand as though he had found a confidant. "That's right. Me too. Me too. Yeva is my goddess and Lin Yan is my daddy. There is no conflict at all." Wei Shufeng glanced at the 2 of them in disdain. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Pei Nanshu holding the flag. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was amiss. "What are you thinking about?" Qi Xiaoyuan asked. Wei Shufeng lowered his voice and said, "I heard that Pei Nanshu had a commercial to shoot today, but he asked his manager to postpone it. He is famous for his professionalism." End of this chapter. Chapter 1434. Wei Shufeng paused before he added, "Based on what I know, he isn't interested in racing at all. Someone offered him a high price for an endorsement deal, but he didn't accept it. He said that he didn't understand the industry and didn't think it was appropriate." Qi Xiaoyuan asked, "So?" Wei Shufeng quipped, "Pei Nanshu, who is so dedicated to his work, actually rejected his job just to watch a competition that he doesn't understand or have any interest in. Don't you think that's weird?" "What's weird? Can you stop beating around the bush?" Wei Shufeng rolled his eyes at him. "Pei Nanshu and Lin Yan have been rumored to be together. Do you understand now?" Qi Xiaoyuan was enlightened. "Are you suspecting that my goddess has something going on with Pei Nanshu? Aren't you thinking too much about it? How is that possible?" Wei Shufeng replied, "How do you know that it's impossible? You don't know anything about the entertainment industry." Qi Xiaoyuan almost choked on his breath. How could he not know anything? He knew everything, okay? He just couldn't say it out loud. Dear viewers watching the live stream, and all the fans. Hello everyone. The first level of the international competition is about to begin. Who will get the precious ticket to the top competition? Let's wait and see. Accompanied by the host's excited voice, the competition officially began. The crowd cheered and cheered. All the racers in the first level of the international competition were divided into groups A, B, and C by drawing lots. The top 3 racers in each group would have to compete again to determine the champion and runner-up of the first level of the international competition. Only the champion and runner-up of the first level of the international competition would qualify for the top competition. Hence, the competition at the first level of the international competition was brutal. Every year, top racers from all over the world would fight to get a spot in the top competition. Up until now, no racer from the entire country had ever qualified for the top competition. Ever since the beginning of racing, the top competition had always been dominated by foreign racers. The Thunderous Sound team was the only team in the country that had almost qualified for the top competition. Ling Yang and a foreign racer had once placed third in the first level of the international competition. However, they hadn't been able to qualify because their total score had been lower than the foreign racers. It was also after that race that Ling Yang became a god. He was regarded as the light of China's racing, the hope of China's racing. Because he had been praised too highly and became too arrogant, Ling Yang's later results were not very good. He did not participate in the international league until he retired for a year. Racing fans still had high hopes for Ling Yang. After all, he was still the holder of the highest result in China. Apart from them, there was another old monster team, the Lightspeed team. The captain of the Lightspeed racing team, Tang Xing, had once placed 4th in the first level of the international competition. He was also a hot favorite to win the championship and 2nd place in this competition. All 3 groups of matches were being held at the same time, and the entire process was being broadcasted live. Lin Yin was a dark horse who had won the 3rd and 2nd level of the international competition. Everyone had high hopes for her. The cheers on the field were deafening. Group A's competition was the most intense. Ling Yang of the Thunderous Sound racing team and Tang Xing, the captain of the Speed of Light racing team, were up against the Mad Dog Michelle Simon of the Falcon racing team. Simon's frequent challenges in Hua Nation had already angered the public. Now he was completely restrained by Ling Yang and Tang Xing. End of chapter. Chapter 1435. Both Thunderous Sound and Speed of Light had shown their true abilities this time. They had obviously studied tactics to counter Simon. Although they weren't from the same team, they had a tacit understanding and blocked Simon's path. In the end, Ling Yang won the 1st place in Zone A, while Tang Xing won the 2nd place. Simon lost control of his car and sped off the track just as he was about to reach the finish line. The 3rd place fell to another foreign racer. The screams of the fans almost shook the roof. They could finally hold their heads high. Lin Yin had placed 1st in Zone C. A total of 3 racers from the country had advanced to the finals of the 1st level of the international competition. All of them had performed very well. That's great. God Yang is so handsome. The combination of strong teams is indeed impressive. There's hope for this year's summit. Yeah. Not only is there a dark horse from Aurora, but there's also God Yang and Speed of Light's captain, Tang Xing. There's a high chance that they can make it to the top 3. The finals are coming soon. I'm so excited. After the preliminaries ended, all the racers returned to the preparation area. After a short break, the finals were about to begin. At the Aurora team's preparation area, sorry coach, Yun Xian's team was very strong. There had been a series of collisions during the race, and Yun Xian's car had been affected. In the end, he had only finished 4th. 4th is not bad. Your team is very strong, Lin Yan consoled him. Yun Xian was very talented, but he had limited experience. He still lacked some countermeasures in the face of unexpected situations. Goddess, I tried my best. It was 2F** King difficult. Mo Shuyun had finished 7th in Zone A. Chi Feng grinned. I'm 5th in Zone C. No wonder it's the 1st level of the international competition. Everyone is so strong. The 2nd level can't be compared to them at all. Mo Shuyun sighed. I can't imagine how strong the contestants are. Although Lin Yin was the only one who had made it to the finals, the outcome was expected and everyone was happy. Lin Yin was preparing for the next race when a figure ran to her. The person handed Lin Yin water with one hand and a towel with the other. Then he massaged Lin Yan's shoulders. Mo Shuyun, Qi Feng and the others were stunned. Who is this? Lin Yin stared speechlessly at Sun Xuan, who was wearing a mask and sunglasses. She lowered her voice and warned him, Why are you here? Hee master, I'm here to show my filial piety and cheer for you. I'm wearing a mask and sunglasses. I won't be discovered. Lin Yin glanced at him helplessly. Don't you need to train? Ever since he came to Hua Nation, he had been trying his best to stick to her, trying to keep his position as her #1 disciple. I caught a cold and Brother Sun told me to rest more. Since I have nothing to do, I came over to cheer for you, master. Lin Yen was about to scold him when Michaud appeared out of nowhere. Great-grandfather, drink mine. It's delicious. Sun Xuan shoved Michaud away. Damn it. What are you doing here? Go back to your own preparation area. You're ranked 3rd in your group and you still have the cheek to come see your great-grandfather. This time, Michaud had been assigned to the same competition as Lin Yen and ended up in 3rd place. Why can you come but I can't? Because this is my master. Quickly go and find your own master. I don't want to. I want to find your master. Lin Yen was speechless. Couldn't he just drag these 2 rascals away? Lin Yen was about to ask Mo Shuyun for help when she realized that he had disappeared. In the VIP lounge, the boss of the Lu Corporation, Lu Jingquan, and the boss of LY Car, Meng Dong, sat side by side on the couch. These 2 bosses held the lifeblood of the domestic racing industry. They had sponsored the best teams in the country, Thunderous Sound Team and Lightspeed Team respectively. End of this chapter. Chapter 1436. Mo Shuyun was searched and his phone was confiscated before he entered. He had an inexplicable bad premonition. Why did the 2 of them call him over at this time? Boss Lu, Boss Meng, I'm flattered. May I know why the 2 bosses called me over? Meng Dong said with a fake smile as he sipped his tea. Congratulations, Captain Mo. 2 racers from Aurora have entered the finals. Mo Shuyun said cautiously. Hee, congratulations to the 2 bosses too. Lu Jingquan lit a cigarette impatiently. Captain Mo, the finals are about to begin. I won't beat around the bush with you. Lightspeed and Thunderous Sound must enter the top 3 in the first level of the international competition. I don't want anything to affect this result. Ling Yang was in great condition this time, and Tang Sheng's results were also very good. Both teams were likely to enter the top 3. Currently, the biggest competitor in the country was Aurora. It would be fine if they lost to foreign racers. At most, they would just be scolded like in previous years. Fans might scold them but they would still support them. However, if they lost to the Aurora team, it would be a fatal blow to Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed. This meant that Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed, the 2 biggest teams in the country, would be replaced by Aurora. Their profits would also be divided with Aurora. Therefore, they could not lose to Aurora in this competition no matter what. Mo Shuyun had a premonition when he entered. He was even more certain of his guess after hearing this. However, he could only play dumb at this moment. Boss Meng, I don't quite understand what you mean. Meng Dong glanced at Mo Shuyun. Captain Mo, you're a smart man. You should understand what we mean. As long as Aurora loses to Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed, you can name the price. Mo Shuyun's expression changed drastically. They actually wanted to use money to make Aurora fix the competition. However, it was no wonder. This competition had a lot of attention. If the invested team achieved good results and entered the top race, it would bring huge profits to these sponsors. Mo Shuyun thought for a moment and made a decision. Sorry, I can't comply with this. Lu Jingquan snorted. Captain Mo, I advise you not to refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You should know the consequences of offending me and Boss Meng in this industry. Mo Shuyun knew that Lu Jingquan wasn't exaggerating at all. Lu Jingquan's Lu Group had been involved in the racing industry for more than a decade, and its power network was deeply rooted. Meng Dong's LY Car Company was the leader in the industry and was backed by the JM Group. It was a subsidiary of the JM Group. It was not an exaggeration to say that they could do whatever they wanted in the industry. Any one of these 2 bosses was enough to shut down a team, let alone both of them at the same time. It seemed like the Aurora team had really given them a lot of pressure this time. Lin Yin had won the championship twice, which had severely threatened the status of the 2 teams. She had threatened the profits of the 2 big shots. Otherwise, these 2 former rivals would not have joined forces to deal with the Aurora fleet. Mo Shuyun was caught in a dilemma. If he agreed, all his efforts would go to waste. If he didn't agree, he couldn't imagine what kind of storms the Aurora team would have to face after the race. If it had been Lin Yen, what would she have done? However, he couldn't tell Lin Yen about this. She was about to compete, so this matter would definitely affect her. End of chapter. Chapter 1437. Captain Mo, you don't have much time to think about it, Lu Jingquan urged impatiently. After a long silence, Mo Shuyun finally said, I'm sorry but I can't agree. In the end, Mo Shuyun rejected the 2 bosses and left the VIP room. He believed that Lin Yen would have made the same decision if she had been in his shoes. The moment Mo Shuyun left, Lu Jingquan slammed the table angrily. Outrageous. A brat who came out of nowhere and a newly formed team dares to be so arrogant in front of me. Meng Dong chuckled like a tiger. Haha. A newborn calf isn't afraid of a tiger. However, President Liu, don't be angry. Tang Xing and Ling Yang are in top form this time. We are confident that we will win. Mo Shuyun is just a precaution. It won't affect the final outcome. Lu Jingquan snorted coldly. That's true, but we can't let Aurora continue to develop like this. Meng Dong's eyes darkened. Why are you so anxious? We will deal with them after the competition. Since they don't know what's good for them, we won't have to be courteous with them in the future. The two bosses sat comfortably on the couch and sipped their tea as they waited for the competition to begin. At this moment, there was an urgent knock on the door of the private room. President Liu? Lu Jingquan's assistant rushed in a panic. Why are you so flustered? Lu Jingquan looked displeased. The assistant looked like he was about to cry. President Liu, there's a new development in the investigation that you asked me to investigate. I found out which team member is related to President Pei of JM. Who is it? Lu Jingquan asked curiously. The assistant replied cautiously, It's Lin Yin from Aurora. Lu Jingquan almost choked on his tea. Ahem. What did you say? How could it be Lin Yin? Didn't you say that you've checked all the team members and there's nothing wrong? Why did Lin Yin appear out of nowhere? The assistant looked like he was about to cry. I didn't manage to find out. I didn't find out. I saw it with my own eyes. As the assistant spoke, he showed his boss a photo on his phone. In the photo, Pei Yuqing was sticking stickers on the two kids' faces. One of them had the word Lin on it, while the other had the word Yen on it. The boss had written Lin Yan's name and the Aurora team logo on the chess piece in his hand. Most importantly, Lin Yan's name had been painted on the boss's face. What else was there to investigate? Pei Yuqing had written his name on his face. When Lu Jingquan had discovered that Pei Yuqing had come to watch the competition, he had been trying to find out which team Pei Yuqing's relative belonged to. He wanted to use this opportunity to build a relationship and discuss a new collaboration. Unfortunately, the boss was too cold and aloof. It was not easy to talk to him, so he specially sent people to check several times to make sure that none of the team members were related to the Pei family. How could he have imagined that the racer Pei Yuqing had mentioned would be the only female racer this year? How is this a relative? This is a girlfriend. The identities of the two children were also very subtle. Maybe she wasn't just his girlfriend, she might even be his wife. Otherwise, how could the three brothers, Pei Yuqing, Pei Nanshu and Pei Yutong, appear at the same time to cheer for Lin Yin? This was a huge matter. End of this chapter. Chapter 1438. JM Corporation was one of the biggest clients of his company. It controlled the Lu Corporation's lifeline. In the end, they had invested in Aurora's rival team. The relationship between Aurora and the other two teams was getting tense. He had even suggested that thunderous sound and speed of light teams join forces to deal with Aurora. If the boss were to find out about this, President Liu stared at the red flag in the boss's hand, his back drenched in cold sweat. Was over. Meng Dong, who had noticed something amiss, yelled, "Hold on! What are you talking about? What girlfriend? Whose girlfriend is Lin Yin?" Lu Jingquan passed his phone to Meng Dong. Pei Yuqing. Lin Yin is your boss's girlfriend. Lu Jingquan vented his anger on Meng Dong. Old Meng. What's wrong with you? The female racer from Aurora is President Pei's girlfriend. How could you not know about such a big deal? Meng Dong was dumbfounded as he stared at the photo. President Pei has always kept a low profile. There's no news about this. How would I know? However, are you sure that President Pei has that kind of relationship with that female racer? How dare you ask me about your boss's affairs? If that wasn't the case, why would Pei Yuqing bring his two brothers to watch the competition? Who was Pei Yuqing? What kind of personality did he have? What kind of relationship could make him come to watch the competition with a flag in his hand? These two kids could even be their sons. Lin Yin might even be your boss's wife. Lu Jingquan was flustered. Meng Dong was in despair when he heard this. It's all your fault. You insisted on joining forces with me to suppress Aurora. What if President Pei finds out? What would he think? I would lose my position as the general manager. Lu Jingquan's face was ashen. Do you think I have it easy? Our biggest order comes from JM Corporation every year. I can't wait to serve President Pei. One of their companies relied on JM Corporation's orders, while the other was a subsidiary of JM Corporation. None of them could afford to offend this boss. After a moment of silence, both of them came to a conclusion. Their racers couldn't beat Lin Yin at the first level of the international competition. I still don't believe you. I have to confirm it myself. Meng Dong rose to his feet. At the same time in the stands, Pei Yutong shouted excitedly, "Ah, my dad is awesome." Qi Xiaoyuan said calmly, "Calm down, it's just a qualifier. This is just my goddess routine." A middle-aged man in a suit walked over from the side aisle. Qi Xiaoyuan recognized the middle-aged man as Meng Dong, the boss of another big car manufacturer in the country. This car company was a subsidiary of JM Group. At the same time, Meng Dong was also the biggest sponsor of another old monster team, the Speed of Light team. Meng Dong walked a little further to the back. Sure enough, he saw his big boss, two of his big boss's brothers, and two little boys who looked like his big boss. Meng Dong's heart sank. Meng Dong walked over to Pei Yuqing and greeted him respectfully. "President Pei?" When Meng Dong saw the flag and the name Lin Yan on Pei Yuqing's face, his heart sank. Pei Yuqing's eyes were in the direction of the Aurora team. When he was interrupted, he raised his eyes and glanced at the man. "Boss Meng?" End of chapter. Chapter 1439. Meng Dong immediately apologized. "President Pei, why didn't you tell me that you were coming? I only knew that you were coming when my subordinates told me. I'm so rude." He could only catch a glimpse of Big Boss once a year during the company's annual meeting. He hadn't expected to bump into him at such an occasion. Pei Yuqing replied, "I'm just here to watch the competition. Don't mind me." "President Pei, do you like Aurora? Aurora's performance this year has been outstanding. Especially Lin Yan, the number 8 racer. She's definitely a hot favorite to win this competition. President Pei, you have good taste." Meng Dong flattered Pei Qian politely. At the same time, he did not forget to probe further. "Boss Pei, is Miss Lin your—" Pei Yutong burst into laughter and interrupted Meng Dong. "President Zheng, aren't you the investor of the Speed of Light team? Why do you keep praising other teams?" Pei Yutong had touched his sore spot. Meng Dong's face turned green, and he looked like he was about to burst into tears. No. That investment was just a casual investment by my subordinates. How could it compare to the team that President Pei has set his eyes on? Of course it can't compare to Miss Lin. Who would have thought that Big Boss's girlfriend would be a female racer? As for him, he was sponsoring another team. How was this any different from openly opposing Big Boss? He was simply courting death. Meng Dong didn't dare disturb Pei Yuqing as he watched the competition intently. He exchanged some pleasantries and left tactfully. He returned to the VIP room. Very soon, the captains and managers of Thunderous Sound and Speed of Light teams were summoned. The manager of the Thunderous Sound racing team thought that his boss had called them over to reward them, and his face was full of joy. "Boss, this time our two teams cooperated very well. Even that mad dog Simon was eliminated by us. Now the internet is full of praises for us, and we've completely overshadowed the Aurora racing team." The manager of Speed of Light team was also sucking up to them. "Yeah, both of you are wise." However, the two of them realized that the two bosses looked worse than the other. They couldn't help but feel puzzled. "Boss, why did you suddenly call us over?" asked the team manager. Ling Yang's expression was somewhat displeased. "The competition is about to start. If you have something to say, say it quickly. I have to prepare in 5 minutes." Lu Jingquan's expression was serious. He deliberated over his words before saying, "Today, Chief Zheng and I asked you to come here because we have something important to tell you. You must remember not to say a word about what we're going to say next, understand?" The four of them nodded. "Don't worry, Mr. Lu. What is it?" Lu Jingquan and Meng Dong glanced at each other before they said, "Ling Yang and Tang Xing can win the next round, but they can't beat Lin Yan." The moment he finished speaking, all four of them were stunned. Ling Yang asked, "What did you say?" Tang Xing frowned, thinking that he had heard wrongly. "You can't beat Lin Yan? What do you mean?" The manager of the Lane motorcade was anxious. "Mr. Lu, Mr. Meng, you must be joking, right? Why was that? Ling Yang and Tang Xing were very likely to enter the Apex competition, and they might even win the championship. If they didn't defeat Lin Yan, wouldn't they have to hand over the championship to someone else? He might even be kicked out of the tournament." End of chapter. Chapter 1440. Meng Dong replied solemnly, "Try to make it to the top 3. As for the first place, even if we give her the championship, we can't beat her." Ling Yang replied coldly, "Why? If you can't give us a reason, then I can't agree to such a ridiculous decision." Tang Xing chimed in, "I can't agree to it either." Thunder Sound Racing's manager whispered, "Boss Lu, Boss Meng, isn't this different from what we agreed on? The original plan wasn't to join forces to deal with Aurora. You also promised to exert pressure on Aurora at all costs to ensure that nothing goes wrong. He had thought that nothing would go wrong this time. How had things turned out the other way? The two bosses had exerted pressure on them to make way for Aurora? Wasn't there something wrong with that? Meng Dong smiled bitterly. I know it's hard for you to accept, but think about it. If we had a choice, would we do something that would destroy our own interests? The manager pondered for a moment. There is only one possibility for the two bosses to make such a sacrifice. Lin Yin has a powerful backer. Thunder Sound Racing's manager looked incredulous. Boss Zhang and Boss Meng are the biggest car companies in the country. What backer could be stronger than ours? Lu Jingquan coughed softly. Lin Yan's backer is your boss's boss. Meng Dong shrugged. Besides, he is CEO Lu's biggest client. We can't afford to offend him. What? Boss Meng's boss? Thunder Sound Racing's manager was dumbfounded. Boss Lu's biggest client? Thunder Sound Racing's manager was dumbfounded as well. Ling Yang seemed to have thought of something as he asked, could it be JM Corporation? Tang Xing was shocked. It can't be, Meng Dong sighed. That's right. It's JM Corporation. My boss is sitting there with Lin Yan's banner in his hand. Lin Yan's name is written on his face. How could I let you win? He just has to ask around and he will find out that we are working together to suppress Lin Yan. His sudden appearance today could be a warning. Lu Jingquan's face turned pale when he heard Meng Dong. That's possible. No matter what you do, you can't beat Lin Yan today. Even if you have to give up on the competition, you can't beat her. The four of them did not expect such an outcome. In their opinion, with the two big shots in the racing circle, Lu Jingquan and Meng Dong, they would definitely be able to get a ticket to the summit of the competition and set a new racing record in China. Who would have thought that the situation would be completely reversed overnight? They couldn't figure out how Lin Yan had gotten involved with such a person. This is ridiculous. Ling Yang slammed the table and stood up. You want me to lose to her on purpose? That's impossible. Meng Dong looked deeply at Ling Yang. You can choose to be willful, but you better consider the consequences. If you refuse, I will immediately withdraw all my sponsorship with the Lane motorcade. Moreover, if you offend someone like that, no other company would dare to sponsor the Lane racing team in the future. If you want the Lane racing team to cease to exist, you can reject it. Thunderous Sound's team manager quickly restrained Ling Yang. Brother Yang, calm down. This backer was indeed not to be trifled with. Who would have thought that they would kick a steel plate this time? Chapter 1441. The competition was about to start when Mo Shuyun rushed back. Where did you go? Asked Lin Yan casually. I have diarrhea. Goddess, all the best. Mo Shuyun didn't mention anything about what had just happened. He couldn't let anything affect Lin Yan and Yun Xian. Lin Yan didn't think much of it and nodded. Her principle was to preserve her strength and enter the top 3 at the first level of the international competition. After all, the competition was about to start. It was best to keep a low profile in case anything happened overseas. She had been worried that Avis, the vice president of the Foreign Racing Association, had discovered her identity. During the preliminary competition, she hadn't given her all as usual. Based on the overall results of the 3 competition zones, Ling Yang had performed the best in the preliminary round. Lin Yan was ranked 3rd. This result was in line with her standard. It wasn't ugly or eye-catching. In the past, she wouldn't have cared about this. However, after experiencing so much, how could she not be careful? If she wanted to beat those old foxes, she had to be more cautious. This time the Chinese team had indeed risen. 3 of the 9 racers had made it to the finals. Ling Yang and Tang Sheng's closed-door training had been extremely effective. They had even broken the record of the first level of the international competition and defeated the arrogant foreign teams. It seemed like these 2 teams had deliberately hidden their strength. Even Lin Yan had to admit that Ling Yang and Tang Sheng had done well this time, especially Ling Yang. The Chinese racers had finally improved. If nothing unexpected happened, Ling Yang and Tang Sheng would most likely enter the top 3 this time. Yun Xian and Michaud were indeed a little inferior to the veterans who had shown their true strength. After all, being able to enter the first level of the international competition at their age was already a height that no racer could reach. The finals began. The 9 racers were in their positions. Lin Yan's plan was the same as the previous competitions. She wouldn't use her full strength at the start. Instead, she would control her speed according to everyone's ability. On the first straight track on the starting grid, 2 cars came to the front one after another. Both of them were racers from top foreign teams. Lin Yan controlled her speed and placed 3rd. She was calculating her speed when she realized that something was amiss. The two racers in front of her were both foreign. What about Ling Yang and Tang Sheng? Lin Yan glanced at the rearview mirror and realized that Ling Yang was following closely behind. Tang Sheng was right behind him. With these two standards, they shouldn't be ranked so low. What's more, these two people definitely wanted to surpass her the most. Could it be that he was still hiding his strength? That shouldn't have happened. No one would be arrogant enough to hide their strength during the first level of the international competition. Of course, Lin Yan was an exception. Could it be some sort of strategy? Lin Yan continued to observe for a while and realized that Ling Yang and Tang Sheng were still behind her. Even though it was obvious that they had a chance to overtake her, they didn't. Tang Sheng's level might be limited, but Ling Yang didn't surpass him either? This was really strange. At that moment, Ling Yang and Tang Sheng, who had deliberately followed Lin Yan, were about to explode with rage. If Lin Yan continued to rank third, both of them would be eliminated if they couldn't surpass her. That way they wouldn't be able to enter the competition. Damn it. Chapter 1442. Given this woman's abilities, she would only be able to handle the third and second level of the international competition. She would reveal her true colors at the first level. Were they really going to give up their places in the competition just because they lost to this woman? However, Lu Jingquan and Meng Dong had warned them personally that if they didn't do as they were told, their racing careers would be over even if they made it to the competition. Lin Yan had even deliberately let them win once to test the waters, but the two at the back remained unmoved. Lin Yan narrowed her eyes as she sped up at the next hairpin turn. After the turn, Lin Yan overtook the second contestant. At the same time, Lin Yan realized that Ling Yang and Tang Sheng had caught up with her. Lin Yan felt incredulous. Could Ling Yang and Tang Sheng be deliberately giving in to her? This was the first time in her career that someone had let her win. This was really refreshing. Ling Yang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Lin Yan speed up. If Lin Yan had finished second, he would have been able to keep his ranking to third and at least enter the competition. However, Tang Sheng would be in danger. In the second half of the race, Lin Yan had more or less figured out everyone's abilities. She gradually sped up and overtook Carl from Country M at the last turn. Ling Yang and Carl began to fight for second place. Tang Sheng failed to catch up and was currently in fourth place. All the cars arrived at the finish line one after another, accompanied by deafening cheers. The results were out. First place, Aurora Lin Yan second place, Thunder Sound Team Ling Yang third place, Falcon Team Charles Carl fourth place, Lightspeed Team Tang Sheng. This result was really shocking. Tang Sheng had maintained his record of fourth place. Ling Yang had broken his best result and successfully entered the top three. He had obtained a ticket to the competition. This should have been a pleasant surprise for all racing fans. It would have been the pinnacle of racing in the country. It would have meant that after so many years, a Chinese racer had finally entered the competition. However, no one had expected Lin Yan, a dark horse, to win the first level of the international competition. This was too dazzling. Hence, everyone's attention was focused on Lin Yan. No one paid attention to Ling Yang and Tang Sheng's results. In the stands, Lu Jingquan was holding a pair of binoculars. After seeing the result, he heaved a huge sigh of relief. Thank goodness, Ling Yang hadn't defeated Lin Yan, but he had entered the competition. This was the best outcome. In contrast, Meng Dong's expression was not so good. Tang Sheng was eliminated. Lu Jingquan glanced at Meng Dong and said with a smile, "Brother Meng, don't be too sad. After all, Tang Sheng is not good enough. Fortunately, the crisis is over. You still have a chance in the next competition." Meng Dong was so angry that he rolled his eyes at Lu Jingquan. He put on a fake smile and said, "Brother Lu, don't be too sad. If it weren't for this, all the limelight today would have belonged to your Lane motorcade." When Lu Jingquan heard this, he couldn't laugh anymore. If they had gone according to their original plan, they would have bribed Lin Yan to ensure that they would win the competition. Lei Yin would have been the center of attention. However, even though he had broken the record and clinched second place, he had been overshadowed by Lin Yan. How painful. End of chapter. Chapter 1443. At the same time, in the VIP room, Vice President Avis and a plump foreign man were standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the competition. Avis glanced at Lin Yan's results on the screen and chuckled. "Willie, you should rest assured now. Yeva has been away from the competition for a long time, so she can't reach her peak. Even though she got first place, her speed can't be compared to her peak. With this kind of standard, she'll only be crushed in the finals. There's no need for us to do anything at all. How do you know that she isn't hiding her strength?" the man asked. Avis grinned. Willie, we've met many times. Have you ever seen Yeva hide her strength? Given her arrogant character, she wouldn't do such a thing. Lin Yin, who was presenting the award, suddenly sneezed twice. What was going on? Who was talking behind her back? After the award ceremony, Lin Yin was about to leave the stage when someone bumped into her. Lin Yin raised an eyebrow when she saw him. Captain Tang? Tang Sheng's expression was ugly as he glared at her. I thought that you were capable, but it turns out that you're just SOSO. Tang Sheng seemed to want to say something, but he was quickly dragged away by the team manager behind him. Ahem. Miss Lin, I'm sorry. He lost the competition, so he's in a bad mood. Please don't hold it against him. Lin Yin was puzzled. Hello, beauty. Wait for me. Carl, who was in third place, chased after her happily with the trophy. Beauty, I didn't expect to meet you again. I prayed to God that I wouldn't meet you during the second level of the international competition. God heard my prayers. However, I didn't expect to meet you during the first level. Beauty, can you give me your number? Lin Yin was speechless. Why was this guy haunting her? After being defeated by her during the third level, he had been trying to find her, but she had ignored him. Who would have thought that they would bump into each other at the first level? Lin Yin smiled politely. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. My husband and son are waiting for me to celebrate. Carl was speechless. Husband? Son? Finally, Lin Yin sent Carl away and returned to the stage. All the members of the Aurora team crowded around her and cheered happily. Sister Yin, you're the best. Captain, you're awesome. Awesome. That's amazing. Lin Yin chatted with her team members for a while before she called Mo Shuyun over. Lin Yin replied, Go ahead. Mo Shuyun, what? What did he say? Congratulations, goddess. Lin Yin asked, Why did you suddenly leave before the competition? Mo Shuyun looked sheepish. Had Lin Yin discovered that he had been threatened by the two bosses? Nothing. Nothing. Mo Shuyun didn't dare to say it out loud. Lin Yin rolled her eyes at him and crossed her arms. Did you bribe Thunderous Sound and Lightspeed to lose to me on purpose? Do you think I need someone to give in to me? Mo Shuyun was dumbfounded by Lin Yan's scolding. Goddess. What are you talking about? I bribed Thunderclap and Lightspeed? Where am I going to get so much money? How could I possibly be so capable? Goddess, you think too highly of me. He didn't look like he was lying. Are you sure you didn't? Then why did it seem like Ling Yang and Tang Sheng deliberately let me win during the competition? Good night, the update is over. Smooches, end of this chapter. Chapter 1444. Mo Shuyun was on the verge of tears. Huh? They purposely let you win? Lin Yin replied, Although I don't need it, they should have been faster. Lin Yin was infuriated. She had initially planned to place second or third, but she had been forced to place first? Mo Shuyun scratched his head in confusion. This isn't right. What kind of development is this? Lin Yin pressed on. So why did you leave before the race? At a time like this, Mo Shuyun could only tell the truth. He quickly explained, I suddenly left before the race because the sponsors of the Thundersound Racing Team, Boss Lu, and the Lightspeed Racing Team, Boss Meng, suddenly called me over. The two of them threatened and bribed you, wanting to bribe you to lose to them on purpose. But I know you well enough that you wouldn't agree, so I rejected them decisively. I didn't want to affect your performance, so I didn't say anything. Lin Yin was taken aback by Mo Shuyun's words. Are you sure? Then why did Speed of Light and Thunderclap lose to me? Mo Shuyun replied, How? How would I know? Those two bosses were so fierce. They said that if I didn't agree they would ban my team. I was so scared that I didn't know what to do. While Mo Shuyun was talking, his phone rang. Oh, it's Meng Dong. Lin Yin replied, Answer it. Mo Shuyun answered the call and spoke briefly. Then he glanced at Lin Yin. Meng Dong and Lu Jingquan want to invite you over. They sounded polite. I wonder what they are up to, Lin Yin replied. Let's go and find out. In the VIP room, Lin Yin and Mo Shuyun knocked on the door and entered. Meng Dong and Lu Jingquan stood up at the same time when they saw Lin Yin. Meng Dong said, Miss Lin, you're here. Please take a seat. Lu Jingquan said, Congratulations, Miss Lin. You're really impressive. Lin Yin and Mo Shuyun exchanged puzzled looks. They didn't seem like they were here to cause trouble. Instead, they seemed to be trying to worm their way into her good graces. Lin Yin glanced at them and got straight to the point. Before the competition, didn't the two of you threaten Captain Mo and force me to lose to Ling Yang and Tang Xing? What do you mean by saying all this now? Meng Dong was so scared that he quickly waved his hand. Miss Lin, Captain Mo, There was some misunderstanding between us before. Please don't take it to heart if we offended you. Lu Jingquan, yeah. We're all Chinese, so no matter which team wins, it's a good thing. Mo Shuyun was dumbfounded. He almost wondered if his memory was messed up. Just a few hours ago, this was not their attitude. Meng Dong rubbed his hands together. Miss Lin, this is really a misunderstanding. Please send my regards to Boss Pei and explain to him. Lu Jingquan echoed, yes. The word President Pei cleared Lin Yan's doubts. The two of them had initially planned to use their power to coerce and bribe her. However, they had discovered her relationship with Pei Yuqing and changed their strategy. This was really dramatic enough. Lin Yan was at a loss for words. After they left the room, Mo Shuyun was still bewildered. Goddess, what is going on? Lin Yan rolled her eyes and shrugged. Don't you understand? These two fellows wanted to use their power to oppress us, but they ended up being oppressed. Mo Shuyun asked, oppressed? What do you mean? Lin Yan replied, it means that I have a stronger backing. Mo Shuyun was speechless. Lin Yan replied, anyway, you don't have to worry about this. They won't cause trouble for us in the future. Just focus on the competition. End of the chapter. Chapter 1445. Lin Yan asked Mo Shuyun to arrange for the celebration to be held the next day. She had to go back to accompany her boyfriend tonight. On the way to Pei Yuqing, Lin Yan had been thinking about something. No one knew about her relationship with Pei Yuqing. How had President Liu and President Meng found out? She couldn't figure it out. Could Pei Yutong have spilled the beans? Sister. Mommy? Lin Yan was lost in her thoughts when she raised her head to see the two babies pouncing on her. Then she saw the word Lin on Xiao Li's face and the word Yen on Chen Chen's face. Pei Yuqing, Pei Nanshu, and Pei Yutong were holding a small, eye-catching flag with Lin Yan's and Aurora's logos on it. Pei Yuqing was dressed casually as he stood a few steps away from her. There was a faint smile on the man's lips. When he looked at her from behind the lenses, it was like the water of the glacier flowing slowly under the sunlight on the peak of a snowy mountain, containing a drowning gentleness. And on the man's godlike handsome face, he had used colorful paint to write her name. Lin Yan was speechless. She racked her brains, trying to figure out how her relationship with Pei Yuqing had been revealed. She had never expected that Pei Yuqing had written it on his face. Lin Yan's heart was pounding, and the sound reverberated in her chest. This man was too good at flirting. Ahem. Lin Yan snapped back to her senses and glanced at the cheerleaders, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Where did you get all these? A fan gave them to you, replied Pei Yuqing. Pei Yutong waved the flag and chuckled. His name is Qi Xiaoyuan. He gave us the rest. Pei Yuqing's eyes sparkled with a smile. I didn't think it through this time. I will prepare in advance next time. Lin Yan hadn't expected Pei Yuqing to be so serious. She rubbed her forehead and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The man's affectionate eyes and sparkling smile seemed to have warmed her entire world. Lin Yan reached out to caress the man's face. Before she could react, she had already planted a kiss on his lips. Darling, why are you so adorable? Pei Yuqing froze. A second later, the warmth in his eyes burned like a burning flame. Pei Yutong wailed, sister-in-law. You can't abuse a dog like this. Do you want me to move the Civil Affairs Bureau here? Cloud Manor, Pei Nanshu coughed softly. He hadn't expected to see such a lively expression on his big brother's face. Pei Qian and Pei Li widened their eyes as they recalled what Pei Yuqing had told them that night. The son depends on his father. Unexpectedly, after her mother lost her memory, she actually liked this man so much. Pei Li touched his little face. Sister, I have it too. Pei Qian hurriedly followed. Mommy, I have one too. I'm cute too. Lin Yan squatted down and hugged them. All right. You're both adorable. Thank you, babies, for coming and cheering for me. I'm so happy today. Pei Yutong and Pei Nanshu stayed behind to celebrate Lin Yan's victory. Everyone had dinner together. Lin Yan called Wang Jingyang. Hey pup, are you free tonight? Come and have dinner with us. Call by he too. End of this chapter. Chapter 1446. Wang Jingyang, who was on the other end of the line, said warily, Eat. Do you want to go through thick and thin with me again? Let me tell you, no way. She had tricked him into eating Pei Yuqing's cooking, which had left him traumatized even now. Lin Yan quipped, What do you mean by going through thick and thin with me? Wang Jingyang replied, You should enjoy it alone. Thank you. Lin Yan asked, Are you really not coming? Wang Jingyang replied, No, I still want to live for a few more years. Lin Yan asked, What about Bai He? Wang Jingyang replied, He jumped out of the window when he heard that you were going to invite him for dinner. Lin Yin was speechless. Pei Yutong lived on the 17th floor? Oh yeah, has Xiao Ji contacted you recently? Asked Wang Jingyang suddenly. Lin Yin replied, no, why? Nothing. If Xiao Ji asks you out, you'd better stay away from him, Wang Jingyang said solemnly. Lin Yin was puzzled. Why? Haven't you been trying to matchmake me with Xiao Ji? There's no reason. Just listen to me. That guy isn't good enough for you. Ignore him. Wang Jingyang replied casually. Lin Yin was satisfied with his answer. You're right. Don't worry. I've been busy with training recently. Other than that, I don't even have time to accompany my boyfriend. How would I have time for anyone else? Sister-in-law, did my brother cook tonight's dinner? Pei Yutong shuddered when he saw Pei Yuqing walk out of the kitchen. Lin Yin, who knew what he was worried about, rolled her eyes at him. The chef made it. Your brother was only in charge of serving it. Lin Yin had asked Pei Yuqing to hire someone from the kitchen to take care of the two kids at home. It wasn't because she didn't want to eat Pei Yuqing's cooking. It was fine for her to suffer, but she couldn't let the kids suffer. Oh, that's good. That's good. Pei Yutong heaved a sigh of relief. Pei Qian glanced at the exquisite food on the table, looking displeased. Uncle, you don't know how to cook? Pei Li straightened his back before Pei Yuqing could speak. I don't think it's a big deal that a man doesn't know how to cook. Pei Qian didn't expect Pei Li to change sides just like that. He angrily said, how can you take good care of mother if you don't even know how to cook? Pei Li, you don't have to cook to take care of your sister. Pei Qian widened his eyes. Why are you speaking up for him? Isn't cooking an essential skill for all boys? Pei Yuqing glanced at Pei Qian. I know how to cook. Pei Qian, really? You're not lying, are you? Then why don't you do it? Pei Li simply covered his brother's mouth. Pei Qian, Pei Yutong, Pei Nanshu and Lin Yin heaved a sigh of relief when Pei Li stopped Pei Qian. Pei Yutong hurriedly changed the topic. Brother, sister-in-law, when are you getting married? Lin Yin was taken aback. She had never considered this question. Right from the start, she had found it unbelievable that Pei Yuqing liked her. Hence, she had assumed that they would break up at any time. However, as they spent more time together, she gradually felt that the man in front of her really loved her. Pei Yuqing froze for a moment when he heard Pei Yutong's words. He and Lin Yin had already registered their marriage. They couldn't possibly do it again. End of this chapter. Chapter 1447. I haven't thought about this, Lin Yin muttered to herself. Although Pei Yuqing was having a headache over this issue, his eyes dimmed when he heard Lin Yin. However, now that you've reminded me, it seems like it's time to put it on the agenda. Lin Yin turned to look at Pei Yuqing happily. Darling, when do you think we should get our marriage certificate? Pei Yuqing's face lit up. Are you sure you want to consider this? Of course. Wouldn't a relationship without marriage be considered a hooligan? Lin Yin considered it seriously before she replied excitedly, why don't we get our marriage certificate after I win the competition? What do you think? Pei Yuqing's eyes seemed to be shrouded in a sea of blue waves. He felt rather conflicted at the moment. Lin Yin had actually said that she wanted to get married with him. However, if they really went to get their marriage certificate, she would inevitably discover that they were already married. Wow. Sister-in-law, are you proposing? Pei Yutong's eyes widened. Lin Yin coughed violently as she realized what she had just said. What proposal? How can my proposal be so shabby? It has to be grand and grand. The corners of Pei Yuqing's mouth curled up. I'm looking forward to it. If it was possible, he really hoped that they wouldn't be disturbed. However, this peace wouldn't last for long. The international competition had ended, and Lin Yin had successfully entered the competition. She felt a little more relaxed. There was still some time before the competition, so she had to start thinking about the matter that she had been avoiding. Lin Yin decided to go back to look for He Muyun. There were some things that she had to ask her in person. Before she went back, Lin Yin went to the mall to buy some supplements and clothes for He Muyun. Before she entered the mall, Lin Yin vaguely sensed someone's gaze on her. Instinctively, Lin Yin stopped and scanned her surroundings. When she saw Xiao Ji in a wheelchair, she couldn't help but be surprised. She hadn't expected to meet him there. Miss Lin Yin, what a coincidence. Xiao Ji, who was in the wheelchair, smiled at Lin Yin. Lin Yin wanted to turn around, but Xiao Ji had already seen her. It would be rude to ignore him. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and walk toward Xiao Ji. Xiao Ji, why are you here? Lin Yin stared at Xiao Ji curiously. Since I have nothing to do, I decided to go shopping, Xiao Ji said softly. Really? Lin Yin stared at Xiao Ji suspiciously. This guy had difficulty in moving and sat in a wheelchair every day. Why did he come to the shopping mall? Not only that, with Xiaoji's wealth, what did he need him for? Are you stalking me? Lin Yan stared at Xiaoji in confusion. Hearing this, Xiaoji subconsciously looked at his legs. Do you think I'm following you? Lin Yan was speechless. Miss Lin Sir's really here to shop, Xing Chuan, who was pushing Xiaoji's wheelchair, said. Lin Yan didn't care if others believed her or not. However, Xiaoji's purpose had nothing to do with her. Miss Lin Yan, what a coincidence. I can't move easily, so please help me push my wheelchair. Let's walk around together. Xiaoji smiled at Lin Yan. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched as she pointed at Xing Chuan. Isn't he human? Coincidentally, he was fired, Xiaoji replied calmly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1448. Xing Chuan was astonished. He seemed to recall something and frowned. Since I've been fired, I'll leave first. Xing Chuan strode away without giving Lin Yan a chance to stop him. Xiaoji, aren't you being too shameless? Lin Yan stared at Xiaoji in astonishment. Xiaoji chuckled softly. Can you help me now? Sorry, I have something to do. Lin Yan couldn't be bothered with Xiaoji's shameless methods. Miss Lin Yan, we're old friends. You can't just leave me here, said Xiaoji. Lin Yan glanced at Xiaoji from the corner of her eyes. He was quite experienced in this kind of moral blackmail. Lin Yan merely smiled at Xiaoji. As long as she didn't have any morals, she wouldn't be blackmailed. Xiaoji sighed when Lin Yan turned to leave. If I'm not wrong, you want to know about your background, right? Lin Yan halted abruptly and turned around to stare at Xiaoji in astonishment. How did Xiaoji know about her? Instinctively, Wang Jingyang appeared in Lin Yan's mind. Wang Jingyang's lackey must have told Xiaoji about it. She had seen dogs before, but she had never seen one as despicable as Wang Jingyang. Wang Jingyang had deliberately asked her to stay away from Xiaoji. Was he afraid that she would discover this? Wang Jingyang told you? Lin Yan frowned at Xiaoji. Xiaoji chuckled softly when he saw Lin Yan stop. It doesn't matter who told me. What's important is that I know about your background. Do you want to hear it? How could Lin Yan believe Xiaoji's words? Xiaoji seemed to have guessed what Lin Yan was thinking when he saw that Lin Yan wasn't moved. Lin Yan, there is a surname that you must be very interested in. Lin Yan stared at Xiaoji silently, as though she was waiting for him to continue. Mu, replied Xiaoji. Lin Yan was speechless. Lin Yan's heart suddenly trembled when she heard Xiaoji mention the surname Mu. She had thought that Xiaoji wouldn't be able to spit out ivory, but she hadn't expected him to mention the surname Mu. Xiaoji, how do you know this surname? What do you know? Lin Yan frowned. Push the cart, Xiaoji said with a smile. Lin Yan cursed Xiaoji's ancestors in her heart. She was certain that Xiaoji knew something that she wasn't aware of. Lin Yan had no choice but to push Xiaoji's wheelchair. Where are you going? Lin Yan asked Xiaoji. Take me home, Xiaoji said. Take you home? Lin Yan was taken aback. Don't misunderstand, it's my home, said Xiaoji. The corners of Lin Yan's mouth twitched. Xiaoji, are you all right? Your manor is dozens of kilometers away from here. Do you want me to push you there? Miss Lin Yan, it seems like you're not very curious about your surname. It's just a few dozen kilometers, but you're already stumped, quipped Xiaoji. Lin Yan was speechless. Lin Yan gritted her teeth and wished she could crush Xiaoji's bones. She had never been threatened like this in her life. Oh yeah, Miss Lin Yan. I'm not threatening you. This is just a business deal. You're free to do it. You do the work and I give you the information. It's that simple, said Xiaoji. End of this chapter. Chapter 1449. Lin Yan instinctively glanced at Xiaoji. Could he read minds? Xiaoji, I'll push you home. Tell me everything you know. Are you sure? Asked Lin Yan. Of course. Xiaoji answered with certainty. All right, deal. Lin Yan nodded and pushed Xiaoji's wheelchair forward. In any case, she was also an evolved person and her body had evolved. Not to mention pushing him home, she could even lift Xiaoji's wheelchair over her head with one hand and run back. Lin Yan had already made up her mind. If Xiaoji dared to fool around with her, he wouldn't need a wheelchair anymore. She would buy him the best stretcher. It only took Lin Yan half an hour to travel dozens of kilometers. When she arrived at Xiaoji's manor, Xiaoji frowned as he glanced at the dust on his body. Was she in a hurry to reincarnate? Lin Yan sipped on a cup of coffee as she stared at Xiaoji, who was seated in a wheelchair. All right, tell me everything you know. Lin Yan put down the cup and glanced at Xiaoji. What are you talking about? Xiaoji was confused. Lin Yan didn't get angry. Instead, she took her phone out of her bag. Xiaoji was curious when he saw that Lin Yan hadn't spoken for a long time. He turned his wheelchair behind Lin Yan and realized that she was shopping online. "Xiaoji, do you like this?" Lin Yan pointed at the exquisite stretcher and asked Xiaoji. Xiaoji stared at the stretcher for a long time before he told Lin Yan, "I will tell you about your background. I was just joking with you." Lin Yan nodded with a smile and turned off the app. "I was just joking with you. Tell me." "Your surname is Mu," said Xiaoji. Lin Yan was speechless. "Do I need you to tell me that? Tell me something I don't know." Lin Yan sighed. "Your name is Mu Yan," continued Xiaoji. Lin Yan was speechless. She really couldn't help but hit him. If she did it herself, it wouldn't be considered bullying a disabled person, right? "Continue?" Lin Yan glanced at Xiaoji. Xiaoji thought for a moment and said, "Your real name is Mu Yan, and you are the daughter of a large evolved human clan. Wang Jingyang is your brother and his real name is Mu Yang. The young mistress of a large evolved human clan. Wang Jingyang is my brother?" Lin Yan looked at Xiaoji as though she was looking at a fool. "Why don't you call Wang Jingyang Mu Go? I'm telling the truth but you don't believe me." Xiaoji shook his head, "But it doesn't matter, I will let you remember everything, not only for you but also for me." Before Lin Yan could reply, she felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. In seconds Lin Yan fell asleep on the chair. "Master, you're..." Xing Chuan walked into the hall and looked at Xiaoji in surprise. "Get out." Xiaoji stared at Lin Yan without lifting his head. Xing Chuan glanced at Lin Yan, looking as though he wanted to say something. However, he didn't dare. Xiaoji stared at the unconscious Lin Yan and whispered softly, "Jiufeng, you don't have much time left." "And neither do I." Xiaoji couldn't help but fall into deep thought as he stared at Lin Yan. His thoughts raced as though he had returned to the past. Back then he hadn't joined the Mountain Sea realm because he had been oppressive. Instead, he had found out about leader Jiufeng's special ability through some means. Defying the heavens and changing fate. If Xiaoji had become one of the top evolved beings in the world at such a young age, it was a pity that his body couldn't take it. In the long run, he wouldn't be able to continue breaking through his limits. What awaited him would definitely be his body shattering. End of this chapter. Chapter 1450. Xiaoji was a rare genius in the world. He seemed lucky, but in fact he was extremely sad. He knew very well that if he couldn't continue to evolve and break through the bottleneck, he would die without a doubt. He had great ambitions in his heart, but because of this he was unable to display them. He wanted to unify the evolvers and become the king of the world of evolvers. But even if he had the strength, his heavy body wouldn't agree to it. After discovering Jiufeng's ability, Lin Yan had become his only hope. She had been his life-saving straw. Not only could she help him continue to break through, but she could also save him from the nightmare of his body collapsing. Many years ago, Xiaoji had given up the empire he had created and lowered his status to become a member of the Mountain Sea realm. He had been under Jiufeng. At first, Xiaoji had joined the Mountain Sea realm with a strong purpose. He had wanted to use Jiufeng to evolve again. Unfortunately, things didn't go according to his wishes. Jiufeng, Wang Jingyang, and the others had always been wary of him. In those years, Xiaoji had tried his best to hide himself. As time passed and he had experienced several major battles in the Mountain Sea realm, he had finally gained the trust of the members of the Mountain Sea realm, including the leader, Jiufeng. However, the few years of living together and going through life and death together had caused Xiaoji to feel a long-lost kinship, and it was an indescribable feeling. The three brothers had always been at odds with each other. Their parents had died in the battle of the evolved beings. Perhaps because his parents had died in the battle of the evolved beings, Xiaoji had sworn an oath when he was young. In this life he would do his best. Even if there was only a 1 in a million chance, he wouldn't give up. He wanted to become the king of the evolved beings and rule the entire world. Perhaps that way there would be no more wars and no more destitution. The evolver talent that Xiaoji showed at such a young age was beyond everyone's expectations at that time. Countless big families tried to rope him in, and the Mu family, which was extremely powerful at that time, was one of the families that tried to rope in Xiaoji. The heavens seemed to be playing a joke on Xiaoji. When Xiaoji had created his own empire and raised his power to the peak, his evolution had begun to stagnate. Not only that, but his body had gradually been unable to withstand his terrifying evolution power and gradually showed signs of collapse. After entering the mountains and seas with 9 phoenixes' help, his body was able to balance itself, and the signs of collapse disappeared. After so many years of fighting in the north and going through life and death together, Xiaoji began to look at the mountains and seas more seriously. Even Xiao Ji didn't know when to open his mouth, but he actually began to enjoy this inseparable bond. Even Xiao Ji wasn't sure if he liked Jiu Feng, or if he just regarded her as a family member that he didn't want to be separated from. Xiao Ji didn't care about the tribulation he had to suffer during the evolution. As long as his home was there, it didn't matter whether he evolved or not. The scenes of that year kept appearing in Xiao Ji's mind and lingering. In their last battle, thanks to his scheming, the Mountain Sea had achieved a complete victory. Jiu Feng happily told him that her abilities had improved once again and could now help him continue to evolve. Joining the mountains and seas was Xiao Ji's ultimate goal. Once his goal was achieved, the mountains and seas would have nothing to do with him. He even thought of slaughtering the mountains and seas after using Jiufeng. End of chapter. Chapter 1451. But a person's heart was difficult to fathom, and what was even more difficult to fathom was one's own heart. For Xiao Ji at that time he did not want to use Jiufeng, and it was no longer important whether he could evolve or not. Of course, if Jiufeng had the ability to help him, that would naturally be for the best. But Xiao Ji never waited for that day to come. The mountains and seas suffered a great calamity, and the entire army was almost wiped out. In order to protect his cherished home he went all out, disregarding life and death. But as strong as he and the mountains and seas were, they were still powerless to resist. His beloved brothers and sisters died tragically in front of him. Xiao Ji could never forget those pairs of eyes filled with despair and unwillingness, and the members of the mountains and seas who fought to the death but were instantly annihilated. He was like a mad dog trying to protect the shackles that could not be cut off, but in the end he watched the shackles dissipate little by little. Since then Xiao Ji once again realized that what family, were all fleeting clouds. Only power was eternal. He fled not because he was afraid of death, nor was it for revenge, but because he had returned to his original reason, his original purpose. He wanted to never look back on the path of evolution. He was even more determined to become the king of the world of evolvers. As long as he ruled the entire evolutionary force, love would be eternal, and the premise of all this was power. The Shanghai army had been mobilized for the final battle, but they had been utterly defeated. Almost all of the high-spirited members had perished, and only a few of them were left. As for the leader, Jiu Feng, although he had managed to escape and was rescued by Tengu, he had been able to erase all of his painful memories due to his abilities. Under Tengu's deliberate manipulation, Jiu Feng, the leader of the mountains and seas, became an ordinary girl and a racer. From then on, the organization of the mountains and seas had nothing to do with her and became a buried memory. And Xiao Ji himself returned to the country that he had founded and regained his ambition. But no matter what, his power of evolution was always at a bottleneck and he could not continue to break through. Although his body had improved with the help of Jiu Feng, after so many years without Jiu Feng, his body was deteriorating day by day. Until one day his feet could no longer support him and he could only sit in a wheelchair. It wasn't until a few years ago that Xiao Ji saw that familiar yet strange face in a car race that he saw again. What was familiar was that they had spent so many years together, going through life and death together. What was unfamiliar was that Jiu Feng had grown up as a little girl. Although she no longer had the heroic spirit of the past, her facial features were more exquisite. Although her appearance would change over time, Xiao Ji could still recognize at a glance that the high-spirited girl on the arena was the leader of the mountains and seas, Jiu Feng. Over the years, Xiao Ji had been inquiring about Heavenly Hound and Nine Phoenix. After all, Nine Phoenix was the only hope for him to evolve again and break through the bottleneck. Unfortunately, after spending a lot of effort, Nine Phoenix and Heavenly Hound seemed to have vanished from the face of the earth. There was no news about them, just like Shanghai, whose name once shook the world. Although he had seen Jiu Feng, Xiao Ji no longer had the shackles that could not be severed. He only had one goal, the power of evolution. He had tried to interact with the woman named Lin Yan, but she seemed to have forgotten everything. She treated herself as an ordinary racer. At that time Xiao Ji had thought that it was ridiculous. However, in her eyes he had realized that she was obsessed with racing. No, she was obsessed with money. How could the Jiu Feng he knew be like this? End of chapter. Chapter 1452. At some point Xiao Ji would have an illusion that this girl was Jiu Feng. If she wasn't, his mental strength could sense the unique evolved aura of Jiu Feng. However, if she was Jiu Feng, there was a world of difference between her words and actions. Although Xiao Ji wanted to use force to force the girl to submit, a trace of affection flashed in his mind, so he couldn't do it. The funny thing was that his two stupid brothers, Xiao Yao and Xiao Zhe, were attracted to this girl. Xiao Yao seemed to have seen through his ulterior motives, so he guarded Lin Yan like a door god. Xiao Zhe and Lin Yan became sworn siblings. Xiao Yao did like Lin Yan, but he wasn't good with words. He hid everything in his heart and never revealed it to anyone. If Xiao Ji hadn't asked, he might never have known that Jiu Feng had saved Xiao Yao's life. When Xiao Yao had lost control of his evolution ability, he had met Jiu Feng. If it hadn't been for Jiu Feng, Xiao Yao would have become a cripple. If he had been unlucky, he would have died on the spot. Xiao Yao knew everything about his big brother, and he also knew why Xiao Ji had joined the Mountain and Sea realm. Now that he saw Jiu Feng again, even though she had lost all her memories and had become an ordinary girl, given Xiao Ji's personality, he would never let her off. During that time, Xiao Ji hadn't been able to attack Lin Yan because of Xiao Yao and Xiao Zhe. Not long after, Heavenly Hound had appeared with the alias Wang Jingyang. He had accompanied Lin Yan as his childhood sweetheart, so he hadn't had a chance to attack. Even when they had been in the Mountain Sea realm, Heavenly Hound had been wary of Xiao Ji, especially after Jiu Feng had lost her memories. He hadn't allowed Xiao Ji to get close to Lin Yan. Xiao Ji had once talked to Wang Jingyang in detail and asked him if he was willing to accept the destruction of the Mountain Sea realm. As long as Jiu Feng could recover her ability and help him evolve again, he would be able to launch a revenge plan. In the past, revenge was no longer important to Xiao Ji. Ever since the destruction of the mountains and seas, his mentality had undergone a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformation. His words were merely used to deceive Wang Jingyang. Unfortunately, Wang Jingyang was unmoved. He only said that the mountains and seas were a thing of the past, and there was no need to mention them again. The most important thing right now was for Jiu Feng to live in peace. Ordinary happiness was a luxury for Jiu Feng, and although he had to worry about money every day, it was still a part of ordinary happiness. He would not allow anyone to break it. The turning point had been Pei Yuqing's appearance. The traitor had appeared. Wang Jingyang hated Pei Yuqing to the core. Coincidentally, Pei Yuqing had pursued Lin Yan forcefully, which had crossed Wang Jingyang's bottom line. Finally, Xiao Ji and Wang Jingyang reached a consensus. However, before they could carry out their plan, Lin Yan had married Pei Yuqing and given birth to two children, Pei Qian and Pei Li. With Wang Jingyang and Pei Yuqing behind them, Xiao Ji's plan could only be put on hold for the time being and wait for an opportunity. And this opportunity had been waiting for this day. Even Xiao Ji had no choice. He had to wait for Lin Yan to recover her memories and regain her ability to evolve. Unfortunately, he didn't have much time, and his body was on the verge of collapse. During this period, Lin Yan had also encountered a huge problem. Because of a certain video, she and Wang Jingyang had been exposed, and the two of them had nowhere to hide. Perhaps this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. End of this chapter. Chapter 1453. Since Jiu Feng couldn't recover her memories, he could only forcefully help her recover them. As long as Jiu Feng's abilities returned, she would help him evolve and break through on account of their past relationship. This was also Jiu Feng's promise to him. If everything went smoothly and he successfully evolved and broke through, Xiao Ji was confident that he could fight that person. He could protect Jiu Feng. In the hall, Xiao Ji suddenly opened his eyes, which seemed to contain blue lightning. He entered Lin Yan's mental domain. Xiao Ji wasn't interested in Lin Yan's privacy at all. He needed to help Lin Yan find her lost memories as soon as possible. However, after searching for a long time, Xiao Ji realized that Lin Yan didn't seem to have any memories of the past. It was completely blank. About half an hour later, Xiao Ji relied on the evolutionary power of his mental domain and finally found some clues in Lin Yan's mental world. It wasn't that Lin Yan didn't have this memory, but that this memory had been deleted by her ability. The memory of the past had turned into thousands of memory fragments. It was no wonder that Lin Yan couldn't remember. Even if she was given thousands of years, it would be nonsense for her to recover her memories. At most, some of these memory fragments would appear in her dreams. However, when she woke up, she would think that she had been dreaming. At that moment, Xiao Ji fell into deep thought. He knew a little about Lin Yan's ability through some means, but he didn't know much. Lin Yan seemed to have many abilities, and Xiao Ji had experienced Lin Yan's most terrifying ability. This was also the reason why Xiao Ji had joined the Mountain Sea realm. Lin Yan could help an evolved person break through the bottleneck and evolve to the highest level. She could also eliminate the irreversible disaster that evolution brought to the body. Other than this ability, Lin Yan's body seemed to have an unknown protective barrier that was related to her mental endurance. Once this ability discovered that Lin Yan was suffering from unbearable pain, it would automatically erase this memory and even more. Lin Yan had forgotten everything in the past, which seemed to be caused by this protective mechanism. Xiao Ji observed Lin Yan's mental world. Although her past memories had been deleted, it wasn't impossible for him to restore them. It was just a little difficult. Xiao Ji used his evolved ability to carefully reassemble Lin Yan's memory fragments. These memory fragments were very fragile. If an external force intervened, the slightest carelessness could cause these memories to disappear completely. Once the memory fragments disappeared, it would be impossible to recover them again. After a long time, Xiao Ji saw Lin Yan's memories with Pei Yuqing. Xiao Ji just needed to do something and Lin Yan would completely forget about Pei Yuqing when she woke up. Besides, he could also use this as a basis to change Lin Yan's memories of him. If he succeeded, Lin Yan would only have him in her heart in the future. This thought seemed to be fleeting, but Xiao Ji didn't do it. He didn't change Pei Yuqing's memory, nor did he change Lin Yan's. A few hours later, Xiao Ji's forehead was covered in sweat. The reconstruction and restoration of Lin Yan's memory wasn't going as smoothly as he had imagined. Lin Yan's mental world seemed to contain some kind of evolutionary power that even he couldn't understand. This power could even kick his mental power out of Lin Yan's mental world. End of chapter. Chapter 1454. Fortunately, Xiao Ji hadn't modified Lin Yan's memories or touched the evolutionary power hidden in Lin Yan's mental world. Otherwise he might have failed at the last step and been kicked out by Lin Yan. However, even with the protection of this power, Xiao Ji had restored a portion of the memory fragments in a short time. During this period of time, Xiao Ji had reassembled most of the memory fragments. However, most of the memories that had been successfully reassembled were rejected by the power of Lin Yan's mental world, which made them extremely unstable. After a period of time, these memories might be broken again because of the power of Lin Yan's mental world. Xiao Ji was deep in thought as he stared at Lin Yan's mental world, which was like a vast galaxy. Based on the current situation, his decision this time should be correct. He needed a long time to help Lin Yan recover her memory fragments. The recovered memory might collapse again because of the protective power of Lin Yan's mental world. Both Lin Yan and he didn't have much time left. Xiao Ji needed to restore Lin Yan's memory as soon as possible. Even so, he couldn't guarantee that Lin Yan would be able to recover her memory. Xiao Ji had another concern. If everything went smoothly and Lin Yan did recover her memory, would her original evolved power be preserved? If the evolved power dissipated, everything would be for naught. While Xiao Ji was continuing to reassemble the memory fragments in Lin Yan's mental world, he sensed an external disturbance and snapped back to his senses. Xiao Ji turned around and saw a man standing outside the door. He was approaching the hall. Xiao Yao. Xiao Ji's face was expressionless when he saw his second brother. His gaze landed on the man. Xiao Ji glanced at Lin Yan, who was unconscious on the sofa, and then at Xiao Ji. What happened to her? Xiao Yao's voice was cold. It has nothing to do with you, replied Xiao Ji. If it was anyone else, it would have nothing to do with me. However, she is related to me, replied Xiao Yao. Hearing that, Xiao Ji smiled and asked Xiao Yao, how did you know that she's here? That's not important, replied Xiao Yao. Xiao Ji pondered this for a moment before saying, Xing Chuan told you. It has nothing to do with Xing Chuan. He just doesn't want you to continue making mistakes, replied Xiao Yao. Continue to make mistakes? The smile on Xiao Ji's face became wider. My brother, you are really stupid. Xiao Ji, just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush. Xiao Yao stared at Xiao Ji. Do you think that I'm hurting her? Xiao Ji pointed at the unconscious Lin Yan. I'm not sure about that. Xiao Yao shook his head and continued, but I'm very sure of one thing. If she was willing, she wouldn't be in such a state right now. Xiao Ji, you're really willing to do anything for power and authority? Back then, you went against your will to join the mountain and sea realm to pursue the ultimate power of evolution, but you failed. She is no longer the 9 phoenixes of the mountains and seas, but why are you still pestering her like a ghost? Let her live an ordinary life, don't disturb her, and don't do ugly things for your dark purposes. Xiao Ji didn't seem to be angry at Xiao Yao's criticism. Instead, he became calmer. He looked at Xiao Ji and sighed naturally, with disdain and ridicule in his eyes. How could I have 2 stupid younger brothers like you and Xiao Zhe? End of chapter. Chapter 1455. I don't agree with your ambition and don't associate myself with you. I think you've lost your sense of self long ago and have become my slave. You want to continue evolving and become the pinnacle of power to rule the entire world of evolution, but can you do it? If you really succeed and become the god of the evolved world, what will this world become? Filthy, frightening. However, Xiao Ji smiled and said, if I become the only king of the evolutionary world, The world will usher in eternal peace. There will be no more wars. This is my ideal world. Peace. Xiao Yao sneered and looked at Xiao Ji. It's fine if you say this to others, but why do you have to pretend in front of me? Third brother doesn't know what you've done all these years, but I do. Xiao Ji did not speak and stared at Xiao Yao with a faint smile. In order to expand your power, you even used your own brother. You killed my friend and annexed his clan. You have long become a puppet of desire. In your heart there is no family and friends, only power and power. You mean Zhao Xiaotong? Xiao Ji said thoughtfully. As Xiao Ji's voice fell, Xiao Yao's eyes were filled with terrible anger. Xiao Yao, you are too stupid. Zhao Xiaotong and her clan are just using you. Zhao Xiaotong was an innate evolver of the Zhao clan. Back then she belonged to the Evolver Alliance with Xiao Ji. Xiao Yao was on good terms with Zhao Xiaotong of the Zhao clan, and Xiao Yao had developed feelings for her. However, the good times did not last long. Xiao Ji personally killed Zhao Xiaotong and annexed the entire Zhao clan. This was a huge blow to Xiao Yao. From disbelief to anger, he finally lost all faith in Xiao Ji. In order to strengthen his power, Xiao Ji did not even hesitate to use his brother to kill Zhao Xiaotong and annex the entire Zhao clan. It was really an empty hell, and a devil was in the human world. Since then, in Xiao Yao's heart, Xiao Ji was a complete devil. He had long been blinded by desire and could no longer be called a human. Since then, Xiao Yao and Xiao Ji almost never contacted each other. He had questioned Xiao Ji, but Xiao Ji had never given him an answer. Why do you want to kill the people I care about? Xiao Yao asked. Xiao Ji smiled. It's because you are too stupid. Let's not talk about the past. I want to take her away today. Xiao Yao glanced at Lin Yan. You can't, Xiao Ji said. Not necessarily. As he spoke, the evolutionary power in Xiao Yao's body erupted in an instant, and the entire manor was instantly filled with a violent aura. Even if Xiao Ji was the most terrifying spiritual evolver in the world, he was not a god and would bleed. Since he was not a god, he would be defeated. However, in the next second, Xiao Yao's body seemed to be controlled by some inhuman power, and he could not move at all. Apart from his consciousness, he no longer had control over his body. Xiao Ji sat in the wheelchair and stared at Xiao Yao quietly. You can't defeat me? Or, as long as you have any doubts about me, you are doomed to fail. Let's go. After a long time, Xiao Ji's green eyes returned to normal, and Xiao Yao regained control of his body. Indeed, he was no match for Xiao Ji. End of chapter. Chapter 1456. As long as he still had a trace of affection for Xiao Ji in his heart, even if he wavered for a moment, Xiao Ji would be able to seize the opportunity and use his mental strength to control him. That was why Xiao Ji dared to say that he had no hope of winning. Ever since they were young, their parents had died in the war in the world of evolved beings. They had relied on each other for survival. Xiao Ji had taken care of them in place of their parents. Under such harsh circumstances, he hadn't let them suffer the slightest bit of grievance or harm. In Xiao Yao's eyes, Xiao Ji had been kind and gentle back then. He had cared for him and Xiao Zhe. But no one knew when Xiao Ji had completely changed. He had become a tyrant that was not mixed with any water. In the Evolver nation that he had created, he could cover the sky with one hand and had an uncontrollable desire for power. He wanted to expand his territory infinitely and even rule the entire Evolver world. He had even given up the power that he had painstakingly built over many years to find the Mountain Sea Realm and become a member of the Mountain Sea Realm. Xiao Yao had been saved by the 9 phoenixes of the Mountain Sea Realm, so he knew about the magical evolution power of the 9 phoenixes. In Xiao Yao's opinion, Xiao Ji had hidden his true nature because he knew about the 9 phoenixes' power. He had to use the power of the 9 phoenixes to help him break through the final bottleneck of an evolved being. Not only would he be able to heal his damaged body, but once Xiao Ji evolved again, his evolutionary power would truly transform into the deep sea and be immeasurable. Actually, Xiao Yao didn't care whether Xiao Ji could break through the bottleneck and continue to evolve. However, he shouldn't keep hurting the friends he cared about. Xiao Ji, I might not be able to take her away today, but you should know her identity. I think many people will be worried if she goes missing, said Xiao Yao. Xiao Ji glanced at Xiao Yao and smiled. You don't have to threaten me. Xing Chuan will probably tell those people that she is here. Xiao Yao stared at Xiao Ji in confusion. Xing Chuan had indeed told him that Lin Yan was in Xiao Ji's manor, but how did Xiao Ji know that Xing Chuan had told him? Furthermore, he was sure that Xing Chuan would tell others. This didn't seem to make sense. Xiao Yao, let me tell you. Lin Yan is safest with me now. Xiao Ji didn't give Xiao Yao a chance to think. Xiao Yao sneered coldly. You don't have to say that in front of me. She is safer with Pei Yuqing. Pei Yuqing? The corners of Xiao Ji's mouth curled up. Are you talking about the traitor who caused the destruction of the Mountain Sea realm? Pei Yuqing? The entire Mountain and Sea army was wiped out? Xiao Yao frowned slightly. He hadn't known about this. Although his third brother, Xiao Zhe, had mentioned that the destruction of the Mountain Sea realm might have been caused by Pei Yuqing, Xiao Zhe had refused to mention it. Hence, Xiao Yao hadn't taken it seriously. Be it when Jiu Feng had lost her memory and become a professional racer abroad, or when he had come to the country, Xiao Yao could tell that Pei Yuqing was sincere about Lin Yan. He wouldn't have any intention of harming Lin Yan, nor had he thought of restoring Lin Yan's memory or using Lin Yan's ability to evolve again. Based on Xiao Yao's understanding, Pei Yuqing hoped that Lin Yan could enjoy this ordinary happiness. Besides, what reason did Pei Yuqing have to harm Lin Yan and make Mountain Sea disappear completely? The Mountain Sea clan and the evolved clan behind Pei Yuqing didn't have any conflict of interest. In fact, they didn't even have any interaction. End of chapter. Chapter 1457. Xiao Ji, what do you mean by that? Pei Yuqing is a traitor? The Mountain Sea realm was destroyed because of him? Pei Yuqing has never been a member of the Mountain Sea realm, so he shouldn't have any dealings with the Mountain Sea realm. Xiao Yao stared at Xiao Ji. Although Xiao Yao didn't have a huge intelligence network like his third brother, Xiao Zhe, he had his own intelligence network. What? I didn't expect you to speak up for Pei Yuqing. Xiao Ji glanced at Xiao Yao meaningfully. People like you will do anything to achieve their goals. It's normal for you to fabricate a few lies, Xiao Yao said disdainfully. If you don't believe me, she will be safe with me. Xiao Ji grinned. I've never believed you, replied Xiao Yao. In that case, I'll give you a chance. Xiao Ji grinned and pointed at Lin Yan. You can take her away now to verify what I said. Xiao Yao was taken aback. Would Xiao Ji allow him to take Lin Yan away? However, since Xiao Ji had said that, Xiao Yao stepped forward and carried Lin Yan on his back. Don't worry. I won't stab anyone in the back, said Xiao Ji. Xiao Yao didn't say anything else as he strode out of the manor. After leaving Xiao Ji's manor, Xiao Yao couldn't help but turn around to check. Xiao Ji really hadn't followed him. Xiao Yao couldn't understand Xiao Ji's behavior. He had gone through so much trouble to kidnap Lin Yan, so why would he let him take her away? Pei Yuqing's Cloud Manor was nearby so he could send Lin Yan back. However, Xiao Yao didn't know if Pei Yuqing was in Cloud Manor. Besides, Xiao Yao was also very concerned about Xiao Ji's words. Xiao Ji had said that Pei Yuqing was a traitor who had betrayed the Mountain Sea realm and Lin Yan. It was because of Pei Yuqing that the Mountain Sea realm had been destroyed. Although Xiao Yao had said that Xiao Ji was talking nonsense, it was just a verbal statement. Xiao Yao naturally understood Xiao Ji. No matter how dark Xiao Ji's heart was, Xiao Ji disdained this kind of verbal deception. Xiao Yao didn't know what to do, so he could only take Lin Yan back to the office. In the office, Xiao Yao placed Lin Yan gently on the couch. He couldn't help but feel flustered as he stared at Lin Yan, who seemed to be sleeping soundly. For a moment, the girl lying on the sofa could indeed overlap with the girl named Jiu Feng from many years ago. Although Lin Yan and Jiu Feng's personalities were worlds apart when she was awake, he could still recall the girl from back then when she was asleep. Xiao Yao was very grateful to Nine Phoenix of the Mountain Sea realm. If not for Nine Phoenix, he would have died at the hands of some powerful evolved beings. Many years ago, it was Shan Hai and Jiu Feng who saved his life and took care of him when he was heavily injured. Not only that, he had lost his mind many times due to the aftereffects of evolution, and it was also Jiu Feng who had used her miraculous powers to help him. Chapter 1458. Even if Xiao Yao wanted to take revenge for Jiu Feng, he didn't even know who the enemy was. Of course, Xiao Yao knew that he would probably be sending his life away if he went to take revenge. How strong was Jiu Feng and his brother, Xiao Ji, Wang Jingyang and the other members were all top evolved beings of the younger generation. Even if they joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for her. What could he do alone? Many years later, he met Jiu Feng again, who was now Lin Yan. However, Jiu Feng was no longer Jiu Feng at that time. She had become a professional racer, Lin Yan. Although he couldn't figure it out, he had taken the initiative to approach her. He had thought that Jiu Feng had changed her name, but later on Xiao Yao realized that Jiu Feng really didn't exist. She was Lin Yan. Xiao Yao had only thought that the two of them looked similar. However, after learning that his brother, Xiao Ji, had taken the initiative to approach her, he slowly realized that Jiu Feng was Lin Yan. However, she had forgotten the past. Xiaoyao thought that Jiu Feng had been seriously injured in the battle that had destroyed the Mountain Sea realm. Perhaps she had injured her head, which was why she had forgotten her memories. After a car accident, Jiu Feng, who had become Lin Yan, had lost her memories again. For an evolved being like Jiu Feng, even if she had forgotten her past and her ability to evolve, she wouldn't have felt any pain. However, that amnesia was very strange. She had only forgotten a certain period of time that had made her feel pain. Xiaoyao then realized that Jiu Feng probably had some kind of magical ability to evolve. Her spiritual world had an unimaginable protection mechanism. Back then Jiu Feng had saved his life. During the time they had spent together, Jiu Feng had mentioned that she had some kind of evolutionary power in her body that could make her forget many things. However, Xiaoyao didn't think much of it. He thought that Jiu Feng was bragging. He had never heard of such an ability. Xiaoyao jokingly asked Jiu Feng how he knew about the existence of such an ability if she had really forgotten about it. Jiu Feng said that Wang Jingyang, the Heavenly Hound, had been repeatedly reminding her that if she did not have such an ability, then Heavenly Hound was lying. However, Jiu Feng trusted Heavenly Hound very much because Heavenly Hound was her brother. When they had been overseas, Xiaoji had tried all sorts of ways to get close to Jiu Feng and pursue her. Fortunately, his brother, Xiaoji, had a low EQ. Although he had racked his brains, he hadn't been able to make her like him. Instead, he had avoided her. His EQ was hundreds of times higher than his eldest brother, Xiaoji. He had become good friends with Lin Yan when she had been a racer. Even his third brother, Xiao Zhe, had acknowledged Lin Yan as his sister. Before long, Pei Yuqing's appearance had completely disrupted Xiaoji's plan. Xiaoji had always thought that Pei Yuqing had snatched 9 phoenix from him. The funny thing was that his big brother, Xiaoji, didn't know his place at all. Even without Pei Yuqing, even if all the men in the world died, given Xiaoji's emotional intelligence, he wouldn't be able to woo 9 phoenix. Not to mention Jiu Feng, any normal girl who did not care about looks and wealth would be destined to spend the rest of her life alone. When Lin Yan had been a racer overseas, Xiaoji had racked his brains to pursue Lin Yan. Xiaoyao had been watching, so he naturally knew what Xiaoji was thinking. When he had first joined the Mountain Sea realm, he had learned about Jiu Feng's incredible evolutionary ability through his third brother's intelligence network. How could Xiaoji have any bad intentions? He had merely wanted to use Jiu Feng's ability to help him remove the burden of evolution and help him break through the bottleneck of evolution. He had wanted to reach the realm of evolution that was close to that of a god. End of this chapter. Chapter 1459. As for Pei Yuqing, Xiaoyao had to figure out what was going on with Xiaoji's so-called traitor. A moment later, Xiaoyao turned on his computer and called Xiao Zhe. About 10 seconds later, a young man appeared on Xiaoyao's computer screen. The man was wearing a cap and the room was dim so he couldn't see his facial features clearly. "Second brother, why did you suddenly think of video calling me? Did you miss me?" Xiao Zhe asked with a smile. Hearing this, Xiaoyao frowned slightly. He stared at Xiao Zhe on the computer screen and said indifferently, "What did you just say?" Xiao Zhe was amused. "Second brother, I was just joking with you." "What is it?" Xiaoyao pointed the camera at Lin Yan, who was sleeping on the couch. Xiao Zhe's expression changed when he saw Lin Yan. "Sister Yan?" "Yeah." Xiaoyao nodded. "Second brother, what did you do to Sister Yan?" "I didn't do anything to him. Xiaoji did it." Xiaoyao told Xiao Zhe everything that had happened. Xiao Zhe was astonished. "Big brother, how did this happen?" "Xiao Zhe, I have something to ask you," said Xiaoyao. "Second brother, you should settle Sister Yan's matter first. I roughly know why big brother did this, but why did he let you take Sister Yan away?" asked Xiao Zhe. Before Xiaoyao could speak, Xiao Zhe's expression changed. He searched for some information on the computer and said, "Oh my god, something big has happened." "Something big has happened?" Xiaoyao was puzzled. "I don't know who exposed Sister Yan's ability in the evolutionary channel, including her identity as the Mountain C9 Phoenix." Xiao Zhe stared at the computer screen with an ugly expression. Xiaoyao frowned when he heard Xiao Zhe's words. It wasn't important that Lin Yan's identity as the Mountain C9 Phoenix had been exposed. What was important was Lin Yan's ability. In the world of evolved beings, there were too many top evolved beings who had reached a bottleneck and were unable to break through. Many top evolved beings' bodies could no longer withstand the power of their evolution. If they had Lin Yan's ability, not only could they repair their bodies, but they could also continue to evolve. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Lin Yan's special ability was the dream of all the powerful evolved beings in the world. As long as Lin Yan was willing, they could break through their bottlenecks and obtain the supreme power of evolution. Xiaoji. Xiao Yao's face was expressionless as he whispered Xiaoji's name. Big brother? Xiaozhe was puzzled. That can't be. What good would it do Big Brother? He also wants to make use of Lin Yan's ability. If Big Brother spread the news, he would be in trouble. Xiaozhe's words made sense, but for some reason Xiao Yao felt that Xiaoji must have had something to do with Lin Yan's ability being leaked. Besides, Xiaoji had made it very clear that Lin Yan was the safest with him. He had also asked him to take Lin Yan away, which didn't make sense. Therefore Xiao Yao had reason to suspect that the initiator of all this was Xiaoji. However, what Xiao Yao had said made sense. Xiaoji was simply making enemies for himself. He also wanted to make use of Lin Yan's ability, so why did he have to make it public? I'm afraid it's going to be troublesome. Xiaozhe frowned. Sister Yan's ability is the dream of all the top evolved beings in the world. Won't they be fighting for it? End of this chapter. Chapter 1460. Xiao Yao was about to speak when Xiaozhe hurriedly said, Second brother, if that's the case, you won't be able to protect Sister Yan. Even without Xiaozhe's reminder, Xiao Yao knew that he couldn't protect Lin Yan. However, compared to Xiaoji's sinister ways, staying by his side would be 1,000 times better than staying with Xiaoji. Xiaoji said that the destruction of the Mountain Sea realm was because of Pei Yuqing. Do you know anything? asked Xiao Yao. Xiaozhe was startled at the mention of Pei Yuqing. The destruction of the Mountain Sea realm was indeed related to Pei Yuqing. However, he only knew that there was such a thing. Xiaozhe didn't have any evidence, so he didn't dare confirm it. Second brother, this matter has nothing to do with you. I feel that it's very complicated. There's no need for us to get involved, said Xiaozhe. Do you know anything or not? asked Xiao Yao. Xiaozhe fell silent for a moment before he shook his head. I really don't know. After hanging up, Xiaozhe fell silent as information about the destruction of the Mountain Sea realm kept surfacing in his mind. It wasn't that Xiaozhe didn't know anything, but he didn't dare say anything. The destruction of the Mountain Sea realm had not only involved Pei Yuqing, but it had also involved some powerful forces. Given their level, if they were involved, they would probably end up worse than the Mountain Sea realm. Of course, Xiaozhe wasn't lying. Although his intelligence network was wide, it was impossible to capture all the details. For example, Pei Yuqing. Xiaozhe only knew that it was related to Pei Yuqing, but he couldn't say that Pei Yuqing had done it. While Xiao Yao was racking his brains to think of a way to settle Lin Yan woke up. Xiao Yao was taken aback when he saw Lin Yan. You're awake. However, Lin Yan didn't speak. Instead, she walked to the bed. The sun was a little dazzling, so Lin Yan raised her hand to block it. Her eyes were a little dazed, as though a soul that had been sleeping for thousands of years had awakened. Lin Yan? Xiao Yao stepped forward when he saw that something was wrong with Lin Yan. Soon Lin Yan turned around and met Xiao Yao's eyes. Xiao Yao shuddered when he met Lin Yan's gaze, and his pupils constricted. To Xiao Yao this gaze was very familiar. When he met Lin Yan's gaze, he inexplicably recalled his short days in the Mountain Sea realm. He recalled the young and mature Jiufeng who was different from ordinary people. As Lin Yan stared out of the window, a familiar yet unfamiliar memory surfaced in her mind. The memories that surfaced in Lin Yan's mind seemed to belong to her, but she couldn't accept them. These memories weren't connected. However, even though they were fragmented, Lin Yan could roughly understand what had happened. Xiao Yao noticed that Lin Yan hadn't spoken. He wanted to step forward and say something, but a few seconds later, Lin Yan hugged her head and squatted down with a pained expression. The Mountains and Seas Group, the Holy Land Academy, and the Mu clan. Most of his memories surged forth like a tidal wave. Lin Yan felt as though she could see the companions who had once appeared in her life leaving her one by one. Every single person she was familiar with and important to her had disappeared from her life, never to be found again. All that was left for her was a sentence. Live well. However, it didn't take long for many unfamiliar memories to appear in his mind to be forcibly extracted at this moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 1461. At that moment, Lin Yan couldn't care less about her headache. She grabbed a pen and paper from the office table and swiftly wrote something in her notebook. Lin Yan seemed to know what was about to happen. These painful memories would disappear again, and she would forget everything. If she wanted to retain these memories, the only thing she could do was record them in her notebook before they completely disappeared. After doing all this, Lin Yan put away her notebook and turned to look at Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao, Lin Yan called out softly to him. Xiao Yao, who was startled, stared at Lin Yan. You're back. Yes, I'm back. The smile on Lin Yan's face didn't fade. Before Xiao Yao could speak, Lin Yan sat down and turned on the computer. Come. Xiao Yao understood and walked over to the computer beside Lin Yanxing. Xiao Yao stared at Lin Yan silently. It seemed like Xiao Ji was indeed powerful. He had actually been able to recover Lin Yan's lost memories. Has the game server been shut down? Asked Lin Yan. Xiao Yao shook his head. I've been keeping it for you. You know me well, replied Lin Yan. Xiao Yao was a genius in game development. Back in Mountain Sea, he had brought Nine Phoenix along to play the games he had developed. Back then, Nine Phoenix had been an internet addict. She had been obsessed with the games he had developed. During the craziest period, the two of them had played for days and nights without eating or drinking. Xiao Yao remembered that Nine Phoenix had once said that if her consciousness could enter the game, she would be able to live in the game world without any restraints. It was also because of Nine Phoenix's words that Xiao Yao had established a virtual and reality game company. Now he had done it. Your friend, Nine Phoenix of Mountain Sea, is online. Xiao Yao's emotions were complicated when he read the notification. How long had it been since he had seen this notification? After Shanghai was completely destroyed, Xiao Yao hoped to see this system notification again in the game. However, today he had finally seen Nine Phoenix's notification again. Do you want to play virtual reality? Although Xiao Yao had so much to say to Nine Phoenix, he only said this in the end. You did it? Lin Yan was still staring at the game screen. She was staring at the virtual character, a young girl strolling in the forest. Yeah. It's been many years. I did it, replied Xiao Yao. That's great. Lin Yan glanced at Xiao Yao and chuckled softly. You're indeed a genius. Although I really want to experience it, I don't have much time. Xiao Yao suddenly frowned. What did Nine Phoenix mean? There's no more time? Jiufeng, didn't Xiao Ji help you recover your memory? Lin Yan was startled at the mention of Xiao Ji. She fell silent for a moment before replying, I'm really sorry. I promised Xiao Ji that I would help him recover, but I can't do that in my current state. Nine Phoenix, when Xiao Yao joined the Mountain and Sea realm, he always had his own goals. Do you know how great his ambition is? Xiao Yao asked. Xiao Ji is a very good person. To me he's like my biological brother. We've been through life and death together. We've laughed together, grieved together, and fought against strong enemies together. He's a very good person, replied Lin Yan. Xiao Yao. This was the first time he heard someone exaggerate his big brother, Xiao Ji, and this person was actually Jiufeng. Chapter 1462. Do you know that after you lost your memory he tried to get close to you? Even though he helped you recover your memory this time, he only wanted to use your ability to help him recover his body. Xiao Yao couldn't help but quip. Even I believe him. Why aren't you willing to believe him? Lin Yan glanced at Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Alright, let's not talk about Xiao Ji. I want to ask you what happened to Pei Yuqing. Asked Xiao Yao. Pei Yuqing. This name lingered in the girl's mind. I heard that Pei Yuqing betrayed you and caused the entire Mountain Sea army to be destroyed. Is that true? Asked Xiao Yao. Before the girl could say anything, she heard a crisp sound and shattered glass scattered all over the ground. A few young men broke through the window. Upon seeing this, Xiao Yao immediately stood up. However, those people were extremely fast. A few of the men cooperated well and grabbed Lin Yan. They didn't even give Xiao Yao time to react as they jumped down from the building. Xiao Yao immediately made a move, but he was stopped by a few young men. Xiao Yao, Nine Phoenix belongs to the Mountain Sea Army. This has nothing to do with you. Don't be a busybody. One of the young men shouted. Who are you people? Xiao Yao scanned the few of them. It has nothing to do with you. These people's levels of evolution were extremely high, so Xiao Yao couldn't break through them in a short period of time. Meanwhile, Lin Yan had already been taken away from Xiao Yao's line of sight. After landing, Lin Yan felt dizzy. Those incomplete memories had gradually left her, and she had fallen into a deep sleep. The young men who were holding Lin Yan were puzzled. What happened? Why did Nine Phoenix faint? Take care of her first. When Lin Yan woke up again, she was on a bench in a nearby garden. Other than a few unfamiliar young men, there was no one else around. One of them stepped forward and stared at Lin Yan. Your senior Jiufeng. Lin Yan frowned when she heard that. She knew that she had forgotten an important memory. She had jotted it down in the notebook in her pocket. However, given the current situation, she couldn't calm down and read it slowly. Who are you? You must have recognized the wrong person, said Lin Yan. I can't be wrong. The few of them showed Lin Yan a message from Xiaoji. The meaning of this message was clear. She was the leader of the mountains and seas 9 Phoenix. She had a very special ability that could help all evolvers repair their bodies. In other words, she could evolve infinitely. Lin Yan stood rooted to the ground. She didn't know what Xiaoji's motive was. Wasn't he inviting trouble for her? Senior 9 Phoenix, we truly admire you and the mountains and seas that you single-handedly created. We hope that you can help us. As long as you're willing to help us repair the defects of our bodies and allow us to evolve endlessly, we're willing to do anything for you. Senior 9 Phoenix, help us evolve. The power of evolution that we obtain can be used by you. Lin Yan couldn't help but sneer at them. Their words sounded nicer than a song. Besides, she didn't know how to repair a damaged body due to evolution. Even if she had the ability, she wouldn't help these evolved beings. End of chapter. Chapter 1463. Although Lin Yan wasn't too sure about the level of evolution, what did it mean to evolve indefinitely? It was equivalent to possessing the power of God. Which God would be willing to be someone else's subordinate? If she really had such an ability and listened to these people's flowery words and helped them evolve indefinitely, she could imagine her final outcome. After these people obtained the power of God, they would definitely kill her without hesitation. God wouldn't allow more and more gods to appear, and the ability they were talking about belonged to the category of creating gods. Lin Yan just didn't understand why Xiaoji would release such fake news. Wasn't he trying to take her life? Did she have the power of creating gods? Didn't that mean that any evolved being would think of ways to get close to her and kidnap her? Who wouldn't want to evolve indefinitely until they obtained the power of God? She wanted that too. Lin Yan's thoughts were in a mess. What should she do? Should she tell these evolved beings that this was fake news and that she didn't have the ability? If she were to tell the truth, would these people not believe her? Or would they kill her out of humiliation? However, if she didn't deny it, how could she get this magical ability to help them evolve indefinitely? Just as Lin Yan was at her wit's end, a cold smile approached, making her heart tremble. Wanting to evolve indefinitely is really pathetic and ridiculous. Lin Yan and the other young men turned to look at him at the same time. The woman was wearing a red dress, and her face was exactly the same as Lin Yan's. In fact, there was no difference in the details. If there was any difference, it could only be distinguished by their expressions. The woman in the red dress was like a block of ice, especially her eyes, which were cold and intimidating. The young men exchanged confused looks when they saw the woman. Even Lin Yan was taken aback. Lin Yan naturally knew about this woman's existence. If the information was correct, this woman who looked exactly like her was the female devil behind the laboratory. She was also her biological sister. Actually, the relationship between the two of them was already very convincing based on their appearances. In Lin Yan's memory, she had never seen this woman before. This was the first time the two of them had met. Previously, Lin Yan had only seen her on a video. Actually, it was because of the information recorded by the dashcam that Lin Yan knew that the female devil in the laboratory who looked exactly like her was actually her biological sister. Behind the woman was a group of attendants. Lin Yan was familiar with the old man. He had barged into Cloud Manor when Pei Yuqing hadn't been around. Lin Yan had relied on pretending to be the demoness to scare him away. The woman's eyes landed on Lin Yan as she sized her up coldly. Then she strode over to Lin Yan, grabbed her and dragged her away. Instinctively, Lin Yan tried to struggle free. However, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape the woman's grip. Lin Yan had no choice but to give up struggling. This woman's ability to evolve was unfathomable. It would be extremely difficult to break free from her grasp. Lin Yan also had many questions to ask this demoness, who seemed to be her biological sister. In the face of the woman's absolute power, Lin Yan was like a baby. No matter how she resisted, she couldn't break free. She could only follow the demoness. Want to leave? Seeing this, the young man in the lead shouted. End of chapter. Chapter 1464. It hadn't been easy for them to snatch the Mountain Sea 9 Phoenixes when Xiao Yao wasn't paying attention. They had wanted to use the 9 Phoenixes' abilities to safely and smoothly evolve indefinitely until they became the legendary ultimate evolved beings. How could they let others snatch their hopes away so easily? However, the demoness didn't even turn around. The subordinates she had brought with her instantly drowned the young evolved beings. Muyu, where do you plan on taking me? The demoness hadn't said a word along the way, so Lin Yan couldn't help but ask. Muyu's eyes gleamed with astonishment when she heard Lin Yan. The demoness stopped in her tracks and glanced at Lin Yan. You've recovered your memory, the demoness told Lin Yan. Lin Yan stared at the demoness and their eyes met. After some time Lin Yan asked, Are you really my sister? It seems like you haven't recovered your memory. Let me ask you, how do you know my name? The demoness asked coldly. However, Lin Yan didn't answer. Instead, she sneered coldly. There are so many strange things in this world. I'm actually your sister. Why don't we exchange some information? You tell me everything and I'll tell you how I know your name. Lin Yan couldn't figure it out. If the woman in front of her was really her sister, why hadn't she acknowledged her? Why had she captured her in the laboratory back then? What was her motive? Who were their parents? How about it, sister? Is this exchange fair? Lin Yan pressed on when the demoness didn't speak. However, Lin Yan hadn't expected the demoness to tighten her grip on her right wrist. The intense pain made Lin Yan break out in a cold sweat. She had no idea what she had said that had angered the demoness. You're not allowed to call me sister. You're not worthy. The demoness' voice was extremely intimidating, like a dormant viper that made one shudder. Sister was a beautiful description. She had once treated her sister as her heart, but what had she gotten in exchange? A nightmarish plot had pulled all her beauty into a bottomless abyss. She had tasted unimaginable pain in the abyss and could never climb out again. Lin Yan didn't say anything. Although the demoness' face was expressionless, Lin Yan could sense the anger in her heart. It was best not to provoke her. Lin Yan was puzzled. If she was really her sister, why would she hate her so much? However, Lin Yan knew that she had lost some important memories. Had she done something wrong to her sister? The demoness led Lin Yan to a laboratory. Muyu, what do you want? Lin Yan frowned. Mu Yan, it's time for you to pay me back for what you owe me. The demoness sneered at Lin Yan. Lin Yan was puzzled. Mu Yan, since you admit that we're sisters, why don't you tell me what happened? My memory is incomplete, so I can't remember anything about the Mu family. If I've really let you down in the past, I will bear the responsibility. Chapter 1465. Mother? Lin Yan was puzzled. The demoness had to be referring to their biological mother, who was probably from the Mu family. Muyu, if you have something to say, just say it. If I remember what happened back then, I won't argue with you, replied Lin Yan. Before the demoness could speak, Lin Yan added, Muyu, think about it carefully. The person who hurt you and the person you want to take revenge on has forgotten everything. What's the point of taking revenge then? Lin Yan was certain that the demoness had a deep hatred for her and their mother. She might as well infuriate her. Perhaps she could get some useful information out of her. Otherwise, Lin Yan, who didn't know anything, would be too passive. The demoness pondered Lin Yan's words for a moment. Perhaps she thought that Lin Yan made sense. The person she hated had hurt her true sister, yet she had forgotten how she had hurt her. What was the point of taking revenge then? After some time, the demoness seemed to have made up her mind. She gazed at Lin Yan expressionlessly. You are really my good sister. You can sum up all the sins you have committed by saying that you have forgotten everything. How could you dare forget that you have destroyed my family? Lin Yan was taken aback by Mu Yu's words. What was she talking about? She had destroyed her family? Wasn't she her sister? Wasn't her home her home? Hence, Lin Yan had interpreted Mu Yu's words as though she had harmed herself. You and I are born from the same mother, we look the same, so you want to push all the sins you have committed onto me? Mu Yu shouted coldly. Lin Yan was speechless. She felt as though she was listening to a heavenly book. She didn't refute Mu Yu's claim that they looked the same, but why would she have to bear all the blame? She would be sorry if Mu Yu had meant what she had said. She had no recollection of it at all. Hold on. Are you saying that I have committed a huge crime and that we look alike to push the blame onto you? Lin Yan asked in surprise. Mu Yu scoffed coldly. You're really smart. How could you figure out such a simple logic? That's impossible, Lin Yan replied resolutely. Impossible? Mu Yu glared at Lin Yan. Lin Yan nodded. I'm not that kind of person. There must be a misunderstanding. Even if I've committed a heinous crime and I'm trying to avoid punishment, I won't refute you if you accuse me of harming others. However, harming my own sister and family is impossible. Lin Yan firmly believed that even if she had lost her memories, her personality couldn't be that different. Although she wasn't a kind person, she believed that she wouldn't harm her sister just to avoid punishment. She believed that she wouldn't do it in the past or in the future. You colluded with my mother to kill me. After that, I lost my home, my mother, and my sister. As my sister, you should have a taste of this pain. Mu Yu sneered. If we're really sisters, why can't we talk peacefully? I believe that there must be a misunderstanding. Why don't you tell me everything? If you're right and I'm a vicious person, I'll give my life to you without any complaints, replied Lin Yan. Yun? Yeah. Mu you I. Yeah. Mo. I yen I. End of chapter. Chapter 1466. Lin Yan believed that there had to be a huge misunderstanding. Back then, Bai had sought revenge on her after Muyu had caused him to suffer. Wasn't this also a misunderstanding? If they were really a family, what was there to be unclear about? Muyu, what do you want? Asked Lin Yan. You almost caused me to lose my life. I can forgive you, but you made me lose all my loved ones, all the most important people. I will make you lose the love of your life, Muyu said. Muyu didn't give Lin Yan a chance to speak. Instead, she slapped Lin Yan and knocked her out. Before she lost consciousness, she seemed to have seen herself being put into a container. After some time, the demoness grinned at Lin Yan, who was under her control. Go back and kill them. Cloud Manor, Pei Yuqing, who was dressed in a suit, tapped his fingers on the table as though he was deep in thought. Xiaoji, Muyu, Holy Land, Mu family. The notebook on the table had already been filled with some information. Daotian. Suddenly, Pei Yuqing muttered to himself. A man who was hidden in a black robe appeared beside Pei Yuqing like a ghost. The face of the man in the black robe could not be seen clearly. He was wearing a large black robe with golden edges. He exuded an extremely cold and gloomy aura, as if he was an evil spirit that had crawled out of purgatory. 7th generation. The black-robed man's voice was hoarse and empty. Pei Yuqing stood up slowly and replied, It's been 10 years. 7th generation, you've been preparing for far too long. 10 years and 4 months, Tao Tian said. To think that Tian Pao would finally see the light of day again. Amnesty was the name of an organization formed by the earliest evolved beings. Pei Yuqing was the 7th generation leader. In the 4th generation of Heavenly Pardon, it almost ruled the entire Evolver's world, but it was destroyed by the Holy Land. For example, the once famous mountains and seas were like mud compared to Heavenly Pardon. The miracle of the 1st generation, 2nd generation Tian Pai Urain of the 3rd king, the 4th god of mercy, the 5th king of heaven, the 6th amnesia, I destroy the 7th king of heaven. Every generation of heaven's pardon had its own unique style. Pei Yuqing was the 7th generation. More than 10 years ago, Pei Yuqing had become a member of Heavenly Pardon. After he had ascended to the throne, he had been pardoning 7 generations of Heavenly Pardon. 7th generation, how much longer are you going to endure in your insignificant little family? Tao Tian asked. However, Pei Yuqing remained silent. Tao Tian continued, the 7th generation king is a tyrant, but you've endured it all this time. If it weren't for you, the 7th generation king, the mountains and seas would have been wiped out by that terrifying force, and not even the fowls and dogs would have been spared. A measly mountains and seas wouldn't be worth mentioning, but the strength of the 9 phoenixes of the mountains and seas can't be underestimated. Why? Are you afraid of Shanghai? Asked Pei Yuqing. In response, Monstrous laughed coldly. A trifling mountain and sea? I can kill you with a flip of my hand. However, that 9-headed phoenix has some unique abilities. If I could recruit him, he would definitely be of great help to the 7th generation. Otherwise, I might as well just get rid of him. She is my wife. Pei Yuqing chuckled softly. Wife of 7 generations. Although his monstrous expression could not be seen because of the black robe, his tone was very surprised. Obviously, he did not expect that the woman he was most afraid of would actually become the wife of the 7th generation. 7th generation. Then, if the 9 phoenixes of the mountains and seas are your wives. Tao Tian hesitated. End of chapter. Chapter 1467. The Mountain Sea realm was targeted back then because of the 9 phoenixes' ability. The sacred ground has to get rid of the 9 phoenix. If the 7th generation is ready, the heavenly pardon will appear again. Pei Yuqing's eyes landed on the man's black robe as he said softly, so prepare yourself. It's really unexpected that the 7th generation, as one of the most outstanding and beloved disciples of the Holy Land leader, would have to fight with the sacred ground and become enemies. Another young man sauntered into Pei Yuqing's study. Pei Yuqing didn't say a word as he watched him. I'm Heavenly Pardon Deep Sea. Greetings, 7th generation. The young man smiled as he bowed to Pei Yuqing. Deep Sea, you used to be a disciple of the sacred ground. You should know how powerful the sacred ground is. Tao Tian glanced at Deep Sea. Deep Sea had also been a disciple of the sacred ground back then. He had left the sacred ground with Pei Yuqing and become a member of the heavenly pardon. The strength of the sacred ground isn't limited to the holy leader. The evolution level of every member of the sacred ground can't be underestimated. The sacred ground has existed for thousands of years, and the holy leader of this generation is undoubtedly the strongest person. No one knows what level of evolution he has reached. When the heavenly pardon reached the 4th generation, it was almost uprooted by the sacred ground. The 7th generation should know this very well. Ever since the 4th generation of the heavenly pardon, the power of the heavenly pardon had been enough to affect the entire world of evolved beings. The sacred ground, which valued balance as everything, naturally wouldn't allow this kind of power. After that, the sacred ground had mobilized most of its power to destroy the heavenly pardon. Pei Yuqing had also been a member of the sacred ground's annihilation team. However, Pei Yuqing didn't agree with the sacred ground's methods. Pei Yuqing and the 6th generation of the heavenly pardon had a good relationship. Although he had been forced to encircle and annihilate the 6th generation of the heavenly pardon, he had ultimately rescued him in time. Pei Yuqing's actions were equivalent to betraying the sacred ground. Ever since then, Pei Yuqing had never returned to the sacred ground. Instead, he had become the 7th generation of the heavenly pardon. Tao Tian, why do you think the 7th generation of the heavenly pardon has been silent all these years? It's to avoid being hunted down by the sacred ground and to conserve energy, the man said. It's because of the 9 phoenixes of the mountain siege. Just like the 7th generation, the 9-headed phoenix was once a member of the Holy Land and was the most beloved disciple of the Holy Land's Lord. However, a man's wealth is his own ruin. The 9-headed phoenix has an extremely special ability that allows evolvers to break through their limits and repair the sequelae of evolvers due to evolution. If this ability is used properly, it is like creating a god. Jiao Feng is the 7th generation leader's wife. If that's the case, there's no need to fear the Holy Land. As long as Jiao Feng is willing to help the 7th generation leader, it won't be long before the 7th generation leader's power surpasses all evolvers. A strange light flashed across Monstrous Sky's eyes. Unfortunately, Jiao Feng has lost her memory. The 7th leader won't force Jiao Feng to remember the past. I understand the 7th leader's intentions. As long as the Holy Land stops, the 7th leader only wants to live a peaceful life with Jiao Feng. Deep Sea grinned at him. Unless the Holy Land can't find the 9 phoenixes of the mountains and seas. However, it hasn't been peaceful recently. Xiao Ji has already leaked the information about the 9 phoenixes. I'm afraid that all the evolvers in the world already know about it. It won't be easy to protect the wife of the 7th generation, Tao Tian said lightly. Feng Ji? Deep Sea rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment. I know a little about Feng Ji. He was once a member of the Mountain Sea. He was ambitious and had always wanted to control the entire world of evolved beings. End of this chapter. Chapter 1468. Back then, Xiao Ji abandoned his own power and joined the Mountain Sea realm because he wanted to get close to the 9 Phoenix. He wanted to use the 9 Phoenix's power to repair his body. Fortunately, Xiao Ji didn't succeed. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. That's strange. Since Xiao Ji had such a motive, why did he leak the information about the 7th generation's wife? He should know the consequences. All evolved beings would do anything to snatch the 7th generation's wife. What good would that do him? Tao Tian looked puzzled. That's interesting. It's a pity that I don't understand Xiao Ji. I only know that he is ruthless and has a high level of evolution, said Deep Ocean. In that case, Tao Tian's eyes glinted coldly. 7th generation, why don't we kill Xiao Ji first and uproot his power? Pei Yuqing remained silent. Pei Yuqing remained silent. After Tao Tian was done, he replied calmly, there's no need to make enemies. What? Tao Tian didn't understand. Tao Tian, the biggest threat now isn't Xiao Ji but the sacred ground. No matter how strong Xiao Ji is, he is nothing compared to the sacred ground. In a manner, Xiao Ji sat in his wheelchair, casually browsing through the information on his computer. Big brother, why did you do this? Do you know the consequences? If you push Sister Yen out like this, she will definitely die. Xiao Zhe bit the apple in his hand as he spat at Xiao Ji. Xiao Ji was taken aback before he turned off his computer. Big brother, say something. I believe that you have no ill intentions towards Sister Yen. Even if Sister Yen lost her memory and can't help you repair your body, you shouldn't be angry and push her into the sea of fire. Besides, it would be easy for you to kill her, Xiaozhe added when Xiaoji didn't speak. You think I'm wrong? Xiaoji pushed his wheelchair as he stared at Xiaozhe. Xiaozhe nodded vigorously and said hastily, how could that be a mistake? That was a huge mistake. Look, Sister Yen lost her memory and became an ordinary person. She lived an ordinary life. That was great. She didn't have any worries, so, you think that the Holy Lord of the Holy Land is stupid. He didn't have any news about Mu Yen before I did. Instead, he only found out about everything after I leaked the news about Mu Yen, said Xiaoji. Xiaozhe pondered for a moment before he asked, what do you mean? Isn't that the case? Do you think that the leader of the Holy Land wouldn't be able to see such a video? Xiaoji then threw the phone to Xiaozhe. The video played a clip of Lin Yen, including the fact that Wang Jingyang was an evolved being. This video was recorded by a little fatty who was jogging at night. It was later posted on the internet, but for some reason, it did not appear on the internet. Instead, it was circulated among the evolved humans. The Mu family has already made a move. Do you think the Holy Land doesn't know? Xiaoji sneered. This? Xiaozhe frowned slightly. I'm not doing this to harm Mu Yen. Instead, I'm doing this to protect her life. At the very least, this will bring a lot of resistance to the Lord of the Holy Land. It won't be easy for him to capture Mu Yen, Xiaoji said. Big brother, are you saying that the leader of the sacred ground knew that Sister Yen wasn't dead and that she had come to the country? You leaked Sister Yan's whereabouts. Before Xiaozhe could finish, Xiaoji said, all the evolvers in the world want to borrow Mu Yan's power, and these evolvers will not let the Holy Land Lord take her away so easily. Chapter 1469. Xiaoji glanced at his legs and replied expressionlessly, everything I do has its own meaning. It didn't matter if she was Lin Yen or Mu Yen. Regardless of whether she was the genius of the Holy Land or the young lady of the Mu family, she had always carried her own mission. This final moment might be the end of her life, or it might be the time for order to shatter and reform. Pei Yuqing, I've underestimated you. After some time, the corners of Xiaoji's mouth curled up into a faint smile. Pei Yuqing? Xiaozhe was startled. He glanced at Xiaoji in confusion and asked, what's wrong with Pei Yuqing? Xiaoji didn't answer Xiaozhe's question. He merely glanced at Xiaozhe and said earnestly, little Zhe. As Xiaoji's voice fell, Xiaozhe had a strange look on his face. Ever since he was young, his elder brother had never called him that. For some reason, Xiaozhe felt that Xiaoji's words and actions were strange today. Big brother, what's wrong? Asked Xiaozhe, who was puzzled. Xiaoji glanced at Xiaozhe as though he wanted to say something. However, he didn't. At Cloud Manor, Lin Yen had appeared in the manor. Pei Yuqing instinctively frowned when he saw Lin Yen. Pei Li, on the other hand, was pleasantly surprised. The little fellow immediately ran over to Lin Yen. Pei Yuqing had wanted to stop Pei Li, but Pei Li was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he had reached Lin Yen. Lin Yen was in a daze as she stared at Pei Li. A second later, a dagger appeared in Lin Yan's hand and stabbed at Pei Li's neck. There was a sound. The dagger had pierced Pei Li's neck. Pei Li's eyes widened in disbelief, and his pupils constricted. Pei Qian, who was following behind, was also stunned. Mommy? Before Lin Yen could do anything, Pei Yuqing's left eye moved slightly and was restrained by his mental power. He couldn't move anymore. What? Mommy is doing this to me. Mommy wants to kill me too. Pei Li took a step back and used his fingers to break the dagger that had pierced his neck. He then pulled it out. What was unbelievable was that the wound on Pei Li's neck rapidly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if that fatal stab had not caused any harm to Pei Li at all. Pei Yuqing didn't seem surprised by Pei Li's abilities as he studied his son. He seemed to be used to it. Pei Li had an indestructible body. No physical attack could harm Pei Li. In fact, Pei Li was immune to most mental attacks. If Pei Li was given enough time to grow, his path of evolution would be limitless. As Pei Li's father, he naturally knew how capable he was. Most of this power had probably come from Lin Yan's genetic heritage. However, Pei Yuqing wasn't in the mood to think about Pei Li's evolved ability. He could even sense that Pei Li was gradually losing control of his emotions. Although Pei Li's ability could be said to be unparalleled, he had a fatal flaw since he was young, and it was easy for him to lose control. After Pei Li lost control of his emotions, his body would no longer be under his control. Coupled with Pei Li's terrifying evolution ability, it would be a terrifying disaster. Otherwise, Pei Li wouldn't have the title of Great Devil. Everyone wants to kill me. Even Mommy wants me to die, At that moment, Pei Yuqing saw Pei Li's face gradually contort. A terrifying smile that didn't match his age hung on his lips. He had completely fallen into a state of madness. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.